Fox Sports welcomes you to the following presentation of the National Football League.
Texans won the toss. They will receive and want the football. Seahawks and Stephen Hauschka kicking off. The crowd brought it up a notch here. With the roof closed and natural grass field, Game 4 is underway. Keyshawn Martin will hesitate. Offense starts from the 20-yard line for the Texans, who script their first 15 plays. Rookie receiver DeAndre Hopkins may be the best receiver option opposite Andre Johnson the Texans have ever had.
He's awesome, and he thinks one day he can be better than Andre Johnson. I told him, you got a long way to go, bud, but he's played well this season. The offensive line, Ryan Harris filling in for Dwayne Brown. It's a big area where they've got to get shored up out on the edge. That O-line, Chris, last week, overpowered by the Baltimore Ravens.
Chris Myers at center, his 100th consecutive start. On first down from the 20-yard line, it is Arian Foster and the #1 defense. They have only allowed 27 points total. And even though they gave up 17 against the Jacksonville Jags last week, they were angry about that.
Yeah, and it's good to see Chris Clemens back in the lineup. 17 plays last week, no setbacks with his knee injury. So young, but so active at the linebacker position when you look at those guys. And without question, the Legion of Boom, the best secondary in the NFL. Big challenge for Matt Schaub in that passing game today.
That's their nickname, a bonded group in the secondary on 2nd and 9. The pitch to Foster, who has room. Arian Foster knocked out of bounds across the 35 by Earl Thomas. A first down for the Texans.
I'm telling you, Arian Foster is ripe for a breakout game. They catch these defenders going inside, block down, creates a nice edge for Arian Foster. Good blocks out there by the tight end, Garrett Graham. And that's that outside bounce play that they love to run. You know, their whole run game, Chris, starts with that stretch play, which means all the zone guys going one way, or that bounce play, that outside power. They want to hit you out on the corners.
A 16-yard gain, 3 tight ends in on first down from the 37. Schaub has it under pressure, and it's batted away and incomplete. Big Red Bryant, and I say big because he's 6'5" and 330, and you get a look at how big.
And he doesn't take the bait on the bootleg. There he is. They want him to squeeze down the line of scrimmage with all that run action going away. Heads up play by Big Red Bryant, the captain of this defense. 2nd down
10. The Texans come in. We talked about the tough loss at Baltimore, but they won at San Diego in the opener, and then overtime here at home against Tennessee, trying to get to 3-1. Foster again, working his way up to the 39-yard line. It'll bring a 3rd down as Brandon Mebane, part of the inside defensive line of the Seahawks, makes the stop.
We saw the one edge run to start, the long one by Arian Foster, and had great success. I think Seattle, the way they like to line up their defense and get those undersized defensive ends out there wide, force the run game back to the middle. So you talk about Brandon Mebane, Tony McDaniel, those guys inside, they're going to have to be on it like they were on that last play.
Hopkins and Johnson top of your screen, and there's Owen Daniels in the slot on the left side of Schaub. On 3rd and 8. From the pocket, under pressure, Schaub gets rid of it, incomplete at midfield. And Chris Clemens, 2nd game back, applying the pressure. Got in 16 snaps last week, said he felt good. We'll probably see a lot of him today.
And it's going to be a tough road to hoe for Matt Schaub. Here's Clemens out here. He's just going to run the corner and run around Ryan Harris, but it's a 4-man rush. And if they can't get better protection than that and keep Schaub clean with 5 and 6 blockers versus a 4-man rush, it will be a long day for Matt Schaub in the passing game.
Shane Leckler back to punt. Leckler from East Bernard area of Houston. Golden Tate from the 20. Met hard up at the 29-yard line, where Russell Wilson will lead the offense. Teams going at it after the whistle, but the Seahawk defense living up to its billing so far. It was a 43-yard punt and an 11-yard return. First down from the 30. Russell Wilson in the pocket, floats one to the sideline for Sidney Rice. Here comes a flag. Jonathan Joseph covering. Our referee, Tony Corrente.
And they're going to see one-on-one matchups out on the perimeter all day, that being Seattle's offense.
Pass interference, defense, number 24. Automatic first down.
And that's just what Houston does. I mean, they play a lot of man coverage. Jonathan Joseph, problem is he was turned to look at the ball and then turned his head back at Sidney Rice and makes contact before the ball gets there. And it was material contact, not looking at the ball as a defender. That's an easy call. Russell Wilson will take 6 to 10 deep shots out on the perimeter in this game.
After the 33-yard penalty, running inside the 25-yard line is Marshawn Lynch. People talk about the road concerns. That's old news with the Seahawks. Russell Wilson, look at his last 4 road games. 6 touchdowns, no interceptions, and they won 3 out of 4. And if you talk about the postseason, he won on the road there before at Washington, falling in Atlanta. So Pete Carroll has the right mentality. It's a different Seahawk road team. We know how great they are at home. 2nd down 6. Marshawn Lynch into the pile to the 30-yard line. It'll bring up 3rd down and short. Slow start for Marshawn Lynch, and we know about the skill position, but the offensive line, the story to watch today.
No doubt, and in the skilled position, that's the feature player right there, Golden Tate. Look at these 3 replacement parts up front. McQuiston has played a lot. The mule Jean-Pierre, this is his 5th start, and then Michael Bowie will have his hands full on the right side of that offensive line with J.J. Watt. He's a rookie 7th-round pick.
On 3rd and 3, Wilson's pass incomplete. And Wilson gets knocked down to the turf. Pressure from J.J. Watt and the spy, Whitney Merciless.
Yeah, watch this rush on J.R. Sweezy. There's Watt. He's going to get the edge, but watch the power as he takes J.R. Sweezy and basically launches him right into the quarterback, gets Sweezy to trip over his own feet. J.J. Watt's game is so darn complete. When he needs to power rush you, he'll power rush you. When he needs to get an edge and slip you, he'll go right by you.
48-yard field goal try for Stephen Hauschka, who has been money so far this season. The kick, it's up. It is through, and Seattle scores on its first possession to take a 3-0 lead here in Houston. Moments ago, we've talked about the fiery defensive stars. There's Brian Cushing of the Texans. Somebody Gary Kubiak said is one of the leaders of this team. They need a little more of that, especially in a fist fight kind of game, as Tim Ryan referred to. Hauschka kicks off. Keyshawn Martin is going to bring this one out. And knocked down just short of the 20-yard line, where the Texans will take over. Let's head down to the field and Jennifer Hale. Hi, Jennifer.
Well, hi, Chris. I tell you what, Texans receiver Andre Johnson put in a lot of extra work this week to have that bruised, swollen shin ready to go. He told me the problem was a fist-sized ball of fluid on the muscle. He's been undergoing electrical stimulation to get that fluid to spread out and dissipate. He did undergo an evaluation this morning where doctors gave him the okay. Chris?
Whatever it takes, 25 catches for Andre Johnson from the 19-yard line. Schaub rolls to his left, and under a little bit of pressure, unloads and completes at the 20-yard line. Andre Johnson has a first down, as if a stage manager pointed on cue after Jennifer's report.
Well, he got my okay on Friday watching him in practice. He looked absolutely 100% running around the practice field on Friday. You know, despite what everyone says about him, he is on pace for a big-time year, well over 120 catches. This is all Andre Johnson after the catch here, back against the grain.
His 105th consecutive game with a catch, and that is a franchise record. After a gain of 12, Ben Tate checks in, and Ben Tate fights to get across the 41-yard line. He came in averaging almost 7 yards a carry. And it's a first down for the Texans.
You got to get the backside defensive tackle chopped if you're going to run the inside game, and that's exactly what they do to Brandon Mebane. Ben Tate with the terrific vision sees it, cuts it up inside for another first down.
Gain of 11, Tate stays in the game. Free agent after this year. Talk about can they keep him in Houston. He's playing for his NFL future somewhere. Gets the carry again. There's room. Can he get outside? Knocked down at the 43. Bobby Wagner, leading tackler on the Seahawks team, coming up from his middle linebacker spot. Let's talk about the combo with Foster and Tate, because nobody's carried the ball more the last couple of years than Arian Foster, so they want to make sure he's well rested when it counts.
Yeah, I do think Arian Foster is the healthiest he's been, and Gary Kubiak told us that. You know, this guy didn't practice all training camp with a calf injury and a back injury. He said this week had his best week of practice and would love to get him 20 to 25 carries in this game.
Hopkins in motion. Top of your screen, the rookie. Shot looks the other way and completes. Inside the 40 is Garrett Graham, the backup tight end.
And he loses Cam Chancellor right at the snap. I mean, you look over here, Chancellor's trying to cover him, and he just releases inside and just separates from Cam Chancellor right away, and then slips that tackle to pick up extra yards.
He was bothered by a hip injury. Backup tight end to Owen Daniels already has a couple of touchdown catches this year. 17-yard gain. That's Hopkins again. In motion, top of your screen, Browner is covering him. Shaw, middle of the field, complete. Andre Johnson. Johnson working on Richard Sherman.
He's just going to run the deep square in. Richard Sherman off coverage. And Richard thought he was going to run the deep square in, and then thought he was maybe running a little stutter and go, and kind of got off. Look at Red Bryant getting blasted. And Richard Sherman just kind of changed his route like he was going kind of defend the deep route. Andre Johnson just broke it inside. Good throw.
17-yard gain. Arian Foster from the 23 has to fight hard to get back to the 20-yard line. Schaub is 3 out of 5 so far. Seahawks only possession. They got 3.
And I'm interested to see how Matt Schaub does and how Gary Kubiak dials up plays attacking Richard Sherman. You know, Richard's the best in the NFL in terms of opponent QB rating. When they throw at him, it's like at 30. I like the fact that they're already testing him here early with their best receiver, Andre Johnson.
Nobody's been better the last 19 games at corner than Richard Sherman. Ben Tate straight ahead. And it'll bring up third down. You know, Gary Kubiak was telling us that Matt Schaub, he coached guys like John Elway and Steve Young in what he called their golden years. Schaub, a 10-year veteran, kind of encouraged him to lose a little weight. He lost 11 pounds in the offseason. He's never going to be fast, but be a little bit more nimble. Move around a little bit.
Yeah, and Schaub told us the same thing. I'm not going to get faster, but I can get more athletic. I've always thought that with the skill guys in particular. The older you get, the lighter you need to get to keep that athleticism.
3rd and 5 from the 18 of Seattle. Ben Tate in motion. Pass is incomplete. Maybe not. Seahawks tip ball, and they come away with the interception. Earl Thomas. Looked like 4 different players had a hand on it. KJ Wright and Owen Daniels had a shot at it, and now they're calling it incomplete.
Well, KJ Wright's the first one to get his hands on it, making the break. Then Daniels has it. Then Cam Chancellor pops it up.
And that
looks like an interception to me by Earl Thomas.
And it is ruled an interception on the field, so every takeaway reviewed. Seahawks football. Earl Thomas from Orange, Texas, about an hour and a half from here. Interception reviewed. First down, Seahawks from inside the 10. Handoff, Marshawn Lynch. 5th interception of the season for Matt Schaub. There's a flag down. And the Seahawks came in tied for 2nd in takeaways in the NFL. They have 6 interceptions now.
Well, they live off the takeaway. And Matt Schaub, I mean, this team doesn't recognize themselves with the critical turnovers in critical areas of the field once again.
Holding offense, number 87. This penalty being forced, half the distance from the goal. Repeat, first down.
So on tight end Kellen Davis, who was working against J.J. Watt. Now they picked him up a game into the season. helping that offensive line.
Listen, you get down in the red zone, and they were 0 for 2 last week, Houston, offensively. The last thing you can do is have a turnover, especially against a defense that's given up 9 points a game. Missed opportunity.
Backed up in the end zone. Crowd trying to get involved. 1st and 14 from the 5. There's a flag. Seahawks.
False start. Offense, number 87. Penalty be assessed. Half the distance to the goal. Remains first down.
That's another call on Davis. The crowd giving the Seahawks a taste of their own medicine. Seattle has such an advantage when they play in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, I think this Houston crowd's competing today. They hear everything about Seattle and that home field and all that noise and the effect. This Houston crowd, as you said, having their effect and making their impact felt today.
From the 2-yard line, straight ahead is Lynch. Marshawn Lynch still going. All the way up and still going to the 35. He's not down yet. The 45-yard line from the 2. A 43-yard run.
Great blocking up front. As I said, a fist fight. They're going to protect that offensive line. And then Marshawn Lynch out in space. Look at Earl Mitchell try to bang, pop that out from behind. No chance. Lynch with the great balance. Out near midfield. Look at the blocking up front, though. That is awesome by Michael Bowie, the 7th-round rookie. Awesome. Took care of Brian Cushing.
43-yard run, longest of the season for Seattle. From the 45-yard line, Robert Turbin checks it at running back and straight ahead into Houston territory. Let's get a game break and check in with Kurt Menefee.
And we check in with the Buccaneers and their new starting quarterback, Mike Glennon, his first NFL touchdown. Second possession of the game to Mike Williams' 8-yard score. Bucks up 7-0 on the Cards. Chris and Tim.
Thank you. 3rd-round draft pick, Russell Wilson, a 3rd-round draft pick who made good. Second and 3. Turbin. And J.J. Watt will make it 3rd and long.
Well, here's Watt here, and watch him on the move. Right inside Bowie. What I love, oh my goodness, destruction on the running back, Robert Turbin. What you love about J.J. Watt is he always looks through the guy trying to block him and has his eyes on his target, whether it be the running back or the quarterback. When he gets penetration like that, Chris, he rarely misses on the opportunity to be a finisher.
4 wide receivers on 3rd and 7. Russell Wilson goes down. Antonio Smith led the charge.
And Antonio Smith is the guy that's got to do it. If you're going to turn your protections to J.J. Watt, Antonio Smith's really got a two-way go. He can take it outside the guard. He can take it inside the guard. That time he just stabs outside, comes back inside across the face of James Carpenter with that rip move. Great play.
John Ryan back to punt. 9th sack of the season for this Texan defense. Back to receive, standing at his 10-yard line is Keyshawn Martin. High kick, waving everybody away is Martin, and it bounces right into the arms of the Seahawks at the 10-yard line. Jeremy Lane, right place, right time. But the tip drill works. Texans survive the interception and have the ball on offense. J.J. Watt said with that makeshift line, we're going to apply heat all day.
Well, and they've done it so far pretty darn well. Those last 2 passing opportunities all over Russell Wilson.
Arian Foster stopped short of the 10-yard line where it'll be second down. This is a rhythm offense, the way the Texans work things.
Well, it's really a team offense that goes with the whole team in terms of they need contributions from the special teams. They certainly need contributions by the defense. You know, Matt Schaub does not defy X's and O's. And when I say that, I mean everything's got to be on schedule. If he gets uncomfortable, you get him moving out of the pocket, and then he's got to start extending plays. He is not the same quarterback as he is when he's in a rhythm and it's coming out on time.
3 tight ends in on 2nd and 10 from the 10 of Houston. Schaub set to throw and has time. And floats to Foster underneath. And Foster has a first down. Down the sideline he goes, up near the 40. First down. And Ryan Griffin, a tremendous block, the third tight end on this team. And we have an injured Seahawk, or at least it appears K.J. Wright is in pain.
And he's the one that ended up finally stumbling and taking on his own player as he was trying to get Arian Foster down. Look at the block here by Ryan Griffin. Bang, right there on Browner, knocks him out of the picture, and here's where K.J. Wright gets hurt, right there colliding with Earl Thomas.
31-yard pickup at the 41 of Houston.
And they need to get the backs more involved in the passing game. You know, I think you look at Arian Foster and Tate, both with 8 receptions coming into the game today, but have not done anything after they caught the football, less than a 4-yard average after they catch it. It's one of the bigger plays they've made.
Schaub has it. Andre Johnson falls for a first down at the 43 of Seattle. Now the Seattle defense is one of just 3 teams in the league, Tim, that has not allowed a first quarter score of any kind. Just over a minute left after a 16-yard gain, and the Texans are on the move.
Well, this is a good example of what Houston really needs to do, Chris. If they can run the ball and have some success, which they've been able to do, all the play action stuff starts to open up. And that time it was just a lead pass where they faked the 2-back lead up inside, held the linebackers, opened a huge window right behind him to Andre Johnson.
From the 43, they've yet to throw in the area of rookie DeAndre Hopkins. And he is at the bottom of your screen as Foster carries, and is met hard, knocked down right away at the line of scrimmage. This Seattle defense, they're allowing an average of just 9 points a game over the first 3. Very, very impressive.
They're a different defense, though, if you can run it at them. And we did Carolina week 1, and Carolina was in that game the whole way till the end because they had success on the ground. And if you get into the 3rd and longs and become one-dimensional against Pete Carroll in this defense with that secondary, you better say goodnight.
On 2nd and 10 from midfield. Schaub, middle of the field, complete for the first down. It's Garrett Graham. And that'll bring us to the end of the first quarter. The Texans are on the move. You want a defense, you have it. The top 2 defensive teams with much greater aspirations. The Seahawks lead after 1, 3-0. Tim Wright, Chris Myers, Jennifer Hale on the field. The start of the second quarter. Texans trail by 3. From the Seattle 31 on first down. Schaub, middle of the field, deep, and open for the touchdown. It's Garrett Graham. His 3rd touchdown catch of the season.
Schaub loves the tight end game anytime they get near the red zone, and watch him and what he does to Malcolm Smith here. Garrett Graham just runs right by him, and it was like Malcolm Smith turned the wrong way, like he was expecting help to the middle of the field. No chance. Laser ball. Good throw from Schaub for the touchdown.
And Randy Bullock with the extra point. Well, they had to wait till the second quarter to do it, but Matt Schaub, his 7th touchdown pass of the season. And the hometown Texans lead in the second quarter over the Hawks. Matt Schaub took his team 90 yards, just under 3 minutes. He was 4 for 4 on that drive. And then, of course, the 31-yard touchdown pass to his tight end, Garrett Graham. And giving the #1 defense in the NFL a challenge here as the Texans take a 7-3 lead and ready to kick off his Bullock. Here in the second quarter, Jeremy Lane is back to return for Seattle. And he's bringing it out. And cut down, the ball's out. That's a loose football, it's still loose.
Well, it looked like Maxwell ended up with it, but now it doesn't. We'll see who comes out on the bottom of the pile with this football.
Byron Maxwell had a clean shot at it after it bounced around a little bit. Lane probably should have never brought that out.
Yeah, you're probably right.
9 yards deep.
And it looked like Lane had recaptured it, Jeremy Lane.
And he did.
Seattle's got the ball.
Seahawks keep the football.
And then Lane lost it. And then a few other guys had the opportunity, in particular Maxwell. Here's the run here. And there's where it gets popped out. And now you see Jeremy Lane has a chance to re-get the ball. Now it gets scooped out.
Justin Tuggle caused the fumble, but the Seahawks get it back. The only turnover in this game, an interception of Schaub. That's an area where the Texans, who are -4, they only have one takeaway all season long. From the 24-yard line, Marshawn Lynch with a healthy gain on first down. Well, Gary Kubiak said through the first 3 games, we aren't ourselves, the Texans, so they're playing a little bit better here. But what does Russell Wilson have to do? We know he's mobile, Tim, especially with 3 new starters on that Seattle offensive line.
Well, I think they need to start moving the pocket for him. I mean, we've seen when he's had to throw it on the 3rd down and he stayed in the pocket, that offensive line, patchwork O-line, they're not going to be able to hold up against J.J. Watt and Antonio Smith and those terrific pass rushers. So I think start moving the pocket, some of the bootleg game, just moving Russell Wilson around to make those pass rushers reroute their pass rush.
Wilson, right Golden there. Tate has it, but he is brought down right away. Let's get a game break and check in with Kurt Menefee about London.
Yes, Steelers and Vikings. Le'Veon Bell making his NFL debut. Gets into the end zone. 8-yard score for the Steeler rookie. They close the gap. It's a 3-point game in the first quarter in London. Chris and Tim.
Thanks, Kurt. Couple of winless teams there. Here, Seattle, one of 7 undefeated teams playing the 4th game of the year. They did get the first down from the 34-yard line. Wilson just 1 out of 2 so far. Wilson has it in the pocket, moving forward, and they're going to bring him down. Brooks Reed, Whitney Merciless, who is the player that they said would probably spy Russell Wilson much of the game, was the guy who went after him.
And what you need to do against Russell Wilson, there's Merciless there, is you can't overrush him. You can't get too far upfield, and that's just a great job by Merciless, keeping his eyes on the quarterback, realizing you can't get too deep. You've got to have the ability to fall back inside when Russell Wilson takes off. That was well done.
It's a sack. 2nd and 10, no gain. Marshawn Lynch, top of your screen as a receiver. Here comes a flag. Wilson plays it out, but the play's blown dead.
J.J. Watt wants it on Paul McQuiston. But if he moved first and drew McQuiston off, this one will be on defense.
Neutral zone infraction. Defense number 99 moved across line of scrimmage, causing an offensive player to false start. 5-yard penalty. Remains 2nd down.
That's Justin James. J.J. said he hadn't been called that since he was a kid, J.J. all his life. But we were at Friday's practice, and even on defense, they were running up the speakers and the loud noise, something they had to deal with in here.
Well, and defensive linemen feed off the crowd noise because the offense can't hear the cadence. And the advantage offensive linemen have is they know the snap count. When the defense can get off before them, rough.
4 wide receivers. Golden Tate has it, and it's brought down at the 40-yard line. Let's check it down on the field with Jennifer Hale. Jen?
Well, Chris, technically, Seattle Seahawks outside linebacker K.J. Wright is questionable to return with the left shoulder, but trainers just finished getting his shoulder all wrapped up. They're in the process now of putting his pads back on him, so clearly Wright is going to give this a go and try to get back in this game, Chris.
Thank you, Jen, on 3rd and 4 from the 40.
And that'll be a huge loss if K.J. Wright can't be the effective player he is versus this Houston run game.
Sidney Rice, incomplete. Jonathan Joseph, who got called for the early pass interference that set up a field goal, was right there with him. He's their best cover guy, and it brings out the punter on 4th down.
And he was just sitting and waiting. Houston blitzes more than any team in the NFL, and they brought the pressure. That time, Russell Wilson had to unload it. Jonathan Joseph was sitting right in the hip pocket of Sidney Rice to get the pass breakup.
Back to return. Keyshawn Martin, the Seahawks, the best punt coverage team in the NFL coming into this game. A high kick. They're going to let go. And into the end zone. A break for the Texans, who take over at the 20-yard line after a 60-yard punt. But J.J. Watt and the Texans doing a job on Russell Wilson here in Houston, Texas. Tim Ryan, Jennifer Hale, Chris Myers here at Texas. Ben Jones in at left guard for the Texans from the 20-yard line with Foster, the running back. Shot fakes to him. On the move, incomplete for Owen Daniels. And moments ago, saw the defense, which is going to be getting a workout, chasing Russell Wilson around. Brooks Reed.
Oh, you got to get oxygen, whether you're tired or not. You got to go get a couple of big inhales. He looks like he's enjoying that. Come on, Brooks.
You do that up here in between timeouts. On second down 10, the Texans, tremendous balance. That's why they get talked about as a big picture team. Second in total defense. They're 7th ranked in the National Football League offensively. This time Foster is brought down by Red Bryant. Now Bryant's a guy who gives a speech every week to the team before the game. Not a candidate you pick out of a crowd to say, go fire everybody up.
Well, I talked to him yesterday. I said, what's the speech? He said, baby, I feel it from the heart. He goes, I don't know until pregame, but I know one thing. This game's going to be won or lost tomorrow on the line of scrimmage. He's such a good player in terms of being a key to their run defense. I mean, everybody's got one gap across the front with the exception of him. And they put him in a spot where everybody wants to run the football because there's an open gap there, and they count on Red Bryant playing both of those gaps as a run defender.
On 3rd and 8, Schaub, sideline throw. The catch is made, and what a battle by Andre Johnson. The ball comes out as Sherman was there fighting with him.
Well, this ball's going to be complete. He's got it. He captures it, takes a few steps, and then the ball comes out of bounds. That's a catch, and a big physical catch for Andre Johnson. Richard Sherman was in pretty good coverage.
I mean, talking about two guys that are 6'3". It's a gain of 10, and the way that Johnson fought for that first down.
Look at that number, though.
No touchdowns.
For all those catches.
Yeah, this year he's looking for his first touchdown catch. It's a big 3rd down completion for Schaub. They're trying to screen here to Arian Foster. Foster up near the 47-yard line with another first down for Houston.
Well, the screen game is all about timing, and this one is timed up perfect. Watch the offensive lineman release the defensive lineman just on time. Brandon Mebane not quick enough to get over there. It's all timed up perfectly. Foster makes one guy miss and carries it out to midfield. I knew this guy was right for a big game. He's still got a long way to go. I think when you look at the slow finish last year, the slow start this year, people forget he is a great running back.
Aiming for his 4th straight 1,000-yard season as Ben Tate is in the clear. Inside the 35 of Seattle for another Texan first down. The running game is working for the Texans.
They dial this play up perfectly. Catch Clinton McDonald in a stunt, going the opposite way. And that is naturally going to open up a huge crease inside. And boy, when Ben Tate gets in space, he has got some juice to him.
A 22-yard gain by Ben Tate, who stays in the game and gets the football inside the 30. And a good push. Tate, after contact, leads the NFL, averaging 4.5 yards a carry. That's an impressive statistic that you don't hear thrown around a lot for a backup running back.
He'd start at just about every team in the NFL if he wasn't here in Houston with Arian Foster in front of him. I remember him at Auburn. He was awesome. And he came in here and played really well until he had that ankle injury. And, of course, it just, I think, fuels Arian Foster and keeps him healthy when they really need him late in games.
On 2nd and 7, pressure coming. Tate has the catch. Spins inside, but the Seahawks swarm him, led by Malcolm Smith, and it'll bring a 3rd down. You know, the last 2 years, the Texans have led the NFL in time of possession. And they lead it again in this game by more than 6 minutes over the Seahawks.
I think their mantra this year, and look at the numbers there, is they're dominating time of possession and play opportunities. I think their mantra this year is peak at the right time. I mean, we've seen them over the last couple of years be undefeated, winning by double digits, and then they fall off at the end. I feel like they want to flip that script this year.
On 3rd and 6, if I'm the Seahawks, I'm wondering where the tight ends are. Keyshawn Martin is in motion. Schaub floats one. That's where the tight ends are.
Chris, great throw, better catch. You got Owen Daniels matched up on a corner in Maxwell, and watch him lay out to make this catch. I mean, that's good coverage. And Owen Daniels just stretches out, catches the ball, and is able to secure it all the way through the catch. Terrific.
Looking like the two-time Pro Bowler he is. A 22-yard gain, and now it's 1st and goal. Foster the carry. It's down inside the 5-yard line where it will be 2nd and goal. And Schaub, who I was talking to John McClain, the Hall of Fame writer here in Houston, who said since the Texans were 11-1 last year, Matt Schaub has yet to play a complete game. He's looking like it in these last 2 drives.
Again, I don't think a lot of guys around him have played a complete game. When you look at their issues up front with their offensive line and being without their best player, Dwayne Brown, they've done a nice job, and you give Matt Schaub time, and he is going to carve your defense up.
And they're going against the #1 defense in the NFL, and they didn't allow many points last year. Stingiest in the league.
Love the tight ends down here, as you know.
Schaub. Sideline throw. Arian Foster, touchdown.
By Greg Jones, because it gets KJ Wright off his feet. He's the guy in coverage. You see him fall down there. He was the guy responsible for Arian Foster. Arian's got an option. If the backer doesn't come, you go out for a pass. He saw KJ Wright didn't come. He went out, and Greg Jones actually knocked KJ Wright off his feet, which opened it wide open for Foster.
The extra point makes it 14-3. A drive of 80 yards. The previous drive was 90. Matt Schaub finishes it off again with a touchdown toss. We welcome you back here in Houston. Arian Foster on the receiving end.
Good old Schaub, 5 of 6 on that drive. Ends in a touchdown. The last drive, 4 for 4. Perfect. Ended in a touchdown.
The Texans, who have trailed at the half in all 3 of their first games, have an 11-point lead now. Jermaine Kearse is back and replacing Lane, who fumbled the football. He downs it wisely, and so Russell Wilson, who has some rallying to do, will lead the offense from the 20 after the Texans have built the lead. 35-year-old Ed Reed added to the Texans, played last week, a byproduct of Texan owner Bob McNair saying we want to get mentally tougher on this team.
Well, you said 35. Ed's going to the Hall of Fame, but last week in Baltimore he looked about 45. I don't think he's right physically.
From the 20, Seattle trying to move the football. Ball's out. It is a loose football. Brian Cushing knocked it out. Texans have it. Marshawn Lynch wondering what hit him.
Yeah, well, his name's Brian Cushing. Nobody blocks Brian Cushing on this play. And he just sifts through all the bodies inside, and look at that tackle, and that ball is clearly out as Cushing is grabbing Lynch by the back of the legs and lifting him up. The right shoulder right there that starts to jar the ball loose. And as Cushing told us the other day, look, the opportunities are there for the takeaways. We're just not getting the ball.
Terrell McLean came up with the fumble recovery after Cushing, who's playing, remember, he missed 11 games last year, playing the best football of his career. From the 19 of Seattle.
I tell you, Seattle's got to keep him out of the end zone in terms of a touchdown here.
Jim, this is the kind of avalanche that the Seahawk opponents go up against when they're in Seattle.
Look, they get too far behind. This crowd gets into a major fervor, and then Russell Wilson, who does not throw the ball very much in that offense, will get one-dimensional. That's trouble against that pass rush.
zone throw. Richard Sherman had a better chance than Andre Johnson. It'll be second down.
Richard Sherman, for all of his interceptions, he's dropped a couple of this year, and that one just went right off his hands.
That fumble recovery, only the second takeaway by this Texan defense, something that they lived off of last year.
I think, as I said, Cushing talked about it. I mean, Daniel Manning, an opportunity. They last week, they've had their opportunities. They just have not been able to either catch it or recover the fumble.
Arian Foster carries, slicing his way out of the 13-yard line.
I'm telling you, the whole key, Chris, to this inside run game is you got to get the backside defensive tackle off his feet. It's really that simple. And watch Mebane right here. And Brandon Brooks able to chop him down. And as soon as he does, you see that crease open up inside. Mebane can't get up to get in on the tackle, and they pick up 6 or 7 yards.
So now it's 3rd and 4 from the 13-yard line. Already an 11-point Texan lead. Shaw, middle of the field. Inside the 10 is Garrett Graham.
Matt Schaub is in an absolute rhythm right now, just picking these guys apart.
It is 1st and goal from the 5-yard line. And Schaub is 13 of 18, nearing 200 yards, already has 2 touchdown tosses.
Think about this. Seattle gives up per game 146 through the air. Schaub, as you said, is almost at 200 already.
Schaub rolling out and in trouble and gets rid of it. He wanted to go to Arian Foster, who was well covered. Chris Clemens chasing him down.
And that's a good example of what you need to do to Matt Schaub. You got to get him moving. I think 3 times they've had Matt Schaub under pressure in this game, and all 3 have been incompletions. That was a blitz there with Cam Chancellor coming off the edge. Maybe Pete Carroll, who does not blitz a lot, needs to start calling up some more pressures on Matt Schaub.
And Schaub is the most blitzed quarterback in the NFL. Arian Foster on 2nd and goal. Gets the football, and the Seahawks rattle it up. It'll be 3rd down. Chris Clemens on the stop. Richard Sherman was talking about having Clemens back, said it's good to have him in the huddle. He's his same old bitter self. He's talking even when other people aren't talking in the defensive huddle, but he helps to fire us up, and they need to stop here before this gets out of hand. 4 minutes remaining, just over 4 in the first half. On 3rd down and goal.
Watch those 2 tight ends, both of them on the flank, Garrett Graham, Owen Daniels.
Shaw gets rid of it and gets knocked down by Bobby Wagner. It'll be 4th down, and here comes Randy Bullock from Klein High School in the area.
That's a win for the Seattle defense, and you see those last 2 plays. Got Schaub uncomfortable, and he's just a different player if you get some pressure on him.
You saw Marshawn Lynch, his first lost fumble of the season, and Schaub sets up a 22-yard field goal. Bullock, the only kicker ever drafted in Texan history, got off to a rough start. He's hitting 500. Nails that one. And the Texans have been rough on the visiting Seahawks. They lead it by 14. Along with Tim Ryan, Chris Myers, Jennifer Hale down on the field. The fumble by Marshawn Lynch set up the 22-yard field goal. Ryan Cushing has been a terror this afternoon, playing angry after an embarrassing performance last week in Baltimore by the Texans, and now the pressure on Russell Wilson. Bullock kicks off. Curse will down it. Offense takes over for Seattle at the 20. Fox tonight, you have what it takes to survive the return of animation domination. Then tune in 2 epic hours, the season premiere, and favorites, all the ones you enjoy. It all starts with Kristen Wiig, who is hysterical. Guest stars with The Simpsons. It's tonight on Fox. From the 20. puts a move on, and there goes Lynch past the 40-yard line, and it takes a couple of Texans to bring him down at the 44 of Seattle. Russell Wilson, who's already been sacked twice, got more on that throw than any other throw in this game, a 24-yard game.
I like the fact they're just letting him get it out of his hands quick. And Brian Cushing, who's right here, thought he was going to make a play on the ball, but J.R. Sweezy, the right guard, out there in pursuit, gets a block right there, and Lynch throws a wicked move back inside, picking up the first down.
Lynch carries and is in Texan territory, all down at the 49-yard line.
Marshawn Lynch is his own best blocker. I mean, Houston had him hemmed up at the line of scrimmage there, and Marshawn broke about 3 tackles to get himself about 8 yards. Look at that, yards after contact, 38.
Robert Turbin checks in at running back on 2nd and 3. It's spotted at the 49 of Houston, and 3 wide receivers. Turbin knocked down right away. Brian Cushing is there once again. Let's check it again with Kurt Benefit.
And while Marshawn Lynch catches his breath, his old team, the Buffalo Bills, are catching a break. How about this? 42 yards, E.J. Manuel to Robert Woods, and they're trying to pull the upset, leading the Ravens 13-7 in the second quarter. Chris and Tim.
Thank you, Kurt. On 3rd and 2.
Houston has had trouble on 3rd down. Right now, they're perfect in this game. Seattle has yet to convert.
We got a timeout. Before the snap, the whistle blew.
This is the 2-minute warning.
Clock ran down, and we have officially reached the 2-minute warning. So you've been warned in Houston. Piece of halftime report coming up with all the highlights and scores. Seahawks on 3rd and 2, trying to dig into the Texan lead. From the 49, Marshawn Lynch goes nowhere.
This front 7 has been outstanding for the Houston Texans. Russell Wilson has only thrown 5 times in this game, but has been hit and slammed on almost all of them.
Now, how about that call on 3rd and 2 from midfield?
I don't mind the read option. I really don't. Russell probably should have kept the football rather than handing it off to Marshawn Lynch. Just well played by the Houston defense, but Russell Wilson has been under tremendous pressure. You see right there on only 5 pass attempts.
Just under 5'11" is Wilson, and Ryan in the field position game here with 1:18 to go. Fair catch called for. Each team has 3 timeouts. And the Texans, who have the lead, will have the football. Well, we expected a tight defensive game. I don't know if we expected the Texan crowd to dominate, and Matt Schaub to kind of pick on what has been the best secondary in football.
He's been terrific. He really has. He's had time to throw. He's only had to move a couple of times, and those have been his incompletions. But he's been able to lean on the running game. The ball distribution has been really good in terms of the tight ends and Andre Johnson. I'm still waiting for that big hookup to DeAndre Hopkins, though. I think that's going to happen before this game's over.
And the 3 starters rush to the offensive line. Of course, center Max Unger is out. Okun is out, and that's had an effect on the running game for Seattle, and the protection, as you pointed out, of Russell Wilson. From the 9-yard line, Arian Foster waits for a hole and slips through. Just over a minute to go. And we're going to get looks like a timeout here. The Seahawks.
Seattle.
And you can see that number. That's why they're number 1 in the NFL. 241 yards per game in the first 3. 9 points a game against that great Seattle defense. They are getting railed today. Already 267 yards, and of course the 17 points.
Now, if you're thinking about a Seahawk comeback on the road, they've won 3 out of their last 4 regular season games. Remember, in the opener, they trailed at Carolina at the half, but that was only a 7-3 score. They came back to win a tough game. Here, they're down by 14. There's Darrell Bevell, offensive coordinator with Russell Wilson.
And the problem being down 14 is, yes, your offense needs to do more, but now you're playing against Houston's offense that has their whole playbook open in terms of the run game and all the play action that comes off of it.
On 2nd down, Foster Seahawks going to try and force a punt, but we have 3rd and short coming up, and another timeout for Seattle. So the Seahawks will have 1 timeout remaining and an important 3rd down swing here before we close out the first half. And Matt Schaub, a variety of targets, but Garrett Graham with 4 catches and 1 for a touchdown.
And I also think Arian Foster, I mean, you see there 3 catches, 50 yards, and the 1 touchdown. That was an area that they've really been lacking. If they're going to clear out, you know, all those defenders with deep routes by the wide receivers and throw the check down to the running back Arian Foster in space, he's got to make people miss and pick up big yards. He's been good at that today.
After a guy loses a football, there's not much you could say. He knows that fumble dug a deeper hole by Marshawn Lynch for Seattle.
That's another story here. I mean, you think of Houston's defense and the big force fumble in Seattle's territory, but how about the way they survived that interception early by the Seattle defense, and they came out and basically forced a punt.
On 3rd down and 4, incomplete. Shot goes down. There's a flag in the middle of the field in the secondary. Under a minute to go here. Only 2 penalties called on each team so far.
Pass interference. Defense, number 31. Automatic first down.
Well, it looked like from up here, Cam Chancellor's just running behind the tight end. And he's got the hook there, the arm bar there, but it looked like it was late after the ball was already gone.
The call on Cam Chancellor, a 10-yard penalty, and that may ruin Seattle's chances with only 1 timeout of getting the ball back. Schaub's going to throw on 1st down. And incomplete for Keyshawn Martin. It dropped short. It'll be 2nd down. Texans all 3 timeouts. And 51 seconds to go before the half.
I talked about Schaub, and the offensive line needed to keep him clean in the pocket. They have done that for the most part today. And that guy right there, Ryan Harris, who's out there at left tackle playing for Dwayne Brown. I mean, last week it was Terrell Suggs and all those pass rushers. Today it's Chris Clemens and Cliff Averill. Well, Ryan Harris has done pretty well so far in this game.
From the 25-yard line on 2nd and 10. Will they run it out or try to get more? Foster. He's going to run it out. Up to the 40-yard line. 44 seconds, and a Texan looks like it's good enough for a Texan first down.
How would you like to be Byron Maxwell watching Brandon Brooks come right at you? Watch the guard lead the way up here, and 41's got to want to take him on. I don't think so. You're just going to jump to the side, and that opens it up for Arian Foster.
You know, Tim Foster came in averaging 3.9 yards a carry. He's over 4 in this game and getting into a rhythm. And as you said, not much of a preseason. Wanted the football today. He's carried it 13 times. He's caught 3 passes. Plenty of time. Complete at midfield to Owen Daniels, who gets a little shove out of bounds from Maxwell. And it is another first down. Seattle has not allowed a 300-yard passer in the last 11 games. Schaub is already over 200.
And just going to run a little option route, just pivoting out. Maxwell playing him to the inside. Owen Daniels is going to pivot to the outside. And Matt Schaub is so darn accurate, Chris, when you give him time to throw the football. This is like stealing right now against the best secondary in the NFL. It's shocking.
Another 15 yards there in field goal range. All 3 timeouts. Caught. Now to the 42 is Daniels again.
Yeah, and I think you just keep driving it and use those timeouts.
Texans will use 1. They'll have 2 remaining with 30 seconds to play. And Tim, I know last year it was a problem on the Seattle defense, the lack of a pass rush as good as they were, but they've added Cliff Averill and Michael Bennett. They had Chris Clemens back. We haven't seen much of that pass rush so far today.
No, and they'll get Bruce Irvin back next week in their game. I've heard this one thrown around all week, that this Seattle ferocious pass rush. Chris, I don't see it yet. I really don't. I mean, they don't obviously send a lot of pressures with Pete Carroll. They can certainly beat you with speed, but I don't see that power rusher inside that can, like J.J. Watt, like we've seen Antonio Smith do in this game, that can dominate as an inside rusher, which is really the key against Matt Schaub, because you know where he's going to throw from. More times than not, right behind the center, you got to get inside pressure.
For Hopkins, incomplete. Brandon Browner was running with him. The rookie has not had a catch yet, but he came in leading all rookie receivers in receiving yards this season.
You knew that was going to happen sooner rather than later, and taking a shot when he gets that one-on-one matchup to the outside. It was good coverage by Brandon Browner. This guy's got huge upside now. You talk about a guy with huge hands that can go pluck it out of the air and catch. He before it's all said and done, Chris, he's going to be a great receiver in this league.
It's 3rd and 2. Right now you'd be looking at a 59-yard field goal if they don't gain any yards. 2 timeouts remaining for Houston. Sideline throw is caught, and right out of bounds is Andre Johnson. Well done. His 5th catch. And now they're within range of Randy Bullock for sure, but still maybe they go for more.
Oh, absolutely, you go for more. You got 2 timeouts, 23 seconds left. You take some shots. And you want to get it closer. And really, I mean, if you got to settle for a field goal, get it even closer for Bullock, whose misses have come, you know, out at the 50-yard range.
Right now you're looking at a 48-yarder. Incomplete. Double covered with Owen Daniels. 18 seconds to go. As I mentioned earlier, this will be the first time the Texans have a lead going to the half this season. Gary Kubiak not only scripts the first 15 plays of the game, as he said, Tim, a la 49er, the old 49er style. He scripts the first 15 or so to start the second half.
Yeah, I may start with the same script I started the game with.
And Seattle, as you like to say, needs to flip the script.
That's right. Gary Kubiak's got to be thrilled with how his team has responded here in the first half.
From the 30-yard line, on 2nd and 10, extra pressure coming. Schaub gets rid of it, and the catch made by Graham. The ball comes out as he went down, and it goes out of bounds.
You got about 5 players laying on the field back where they hit Schaub. Finally, right now, starting to get up, and a few of them are still down.
Cliff Averill, one of those Seahawk players that all collapsed at the area of the quarterback, and we will check on the injuries with 10 seconds remaining. The Texans have a 17-3 lead, and they have the football in field goal range with 2 timeouts. All spotted at the 29-yard line. And we will check on the injury and return in a moment. Thankfully, there is some movement from Michael Bennett of the Seahawks. And I don't know how Matt Schaub survived the hit between Bennett and Cliff Averill.
Oh, yeah.
But Averill slow to get up, Tim, but Bennett, he's in pain.
Well, you can see Bennett. Just watch his helmet here, number 72, and he stumbles and goes right into the arm, into the hip of Matt Schaub, and you saw that head get jolted backwards. And you can really see it here. Just watch his helmet right to the hip of Schaub. His head goes backwards. Averill takes him over the top, and they're bringing the stretcher out. And you said it. I mean, we saw some movement. Looks like it's a neck injury, just the way that it happened for Michael Bennett.
And Bennett, a free agent from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who led that team in sacks last year, was the leader in sacks so far for Seattle with 2.5 coming into this game. In fact, Pete Carroll just this week was talking about how Michael Bennett is more than we thought he was, and that he's a complete player who adds constant pressure, whether he's inside or outside, and fit in well nicely with this Seattle defense.
And that's why this is such a dangerous game. I mean, you've got to play one way, and that's 100% relentless, tenacious, and you got one player pushing you from behind, another player stepping up in front of you. That's why this game's hazardous and very dangerous.
And Tim, anybody who makes it to the professional level, you think of all the hours of hard work and the chance to get to play, and how an injury can change that in the blink of an eye as they assist with the cart, the stretcher out, and they have, looks like a stretcher underneath Michael Bennett. Your heart goes out to these guys. They live the game. They work hard to be in the best physical shape they can be for every Sunday.
Now, hopefully, and I think one thing with, my career ended with neck injuries, is a lot of times it's very, very scary early, and everyone's scared, and you're obviously cautious, depending on what all the test results are going to show. A lot of times you can come back from those neck injuries a lot sooner than people think. Once you get, carted off the field, everyone thinks it's over for the season. Hopefully, it's not.
And it doesn't matter which sideline you're on. As a player, it could be you out there, and your heart goes out to the player who's down. 10 seconds remaining here in the first half. The crowd as taken aback as we are. By the injury to Michael Bennett. It's never a good sign when they have to take this much time to move a player from a stretcher up off the field.
Yeah, and again, I think they're just so cautious when you're dealing with a head or a neck. They really are. I mean, they are going to take every precaution possible to make sure that if it is a significant spinal cord injury, if in fact it's a neck injury, that they don't do anything to make it worse by trying to get him off the field on his own power.
They're standing in Houston just under 72,000, appreciating the hard work of every player on this field. 10 seconds remaining, and the Texans have the football.
I think that's the father of Michael Bennett.
Michael Bennett's father.
His dad.
He went to Texas A&M. He's from Alief, Texas. Is Michael Bennett.
That's got to be a helpless feeling. You hear him calling for his son from the stands, and
hopefully he'll get a chance to go back and see. The Seahawks have 9 players on their roster from Texas, and Michael Bennett is one of them.
Let me fold my credential into a paper airplane, and I'll throw it to Mr. Bennett.
Well,
so
he's on his way back, and I'm sure somebody from either the Texans, whether it's Kevin Cooper or Dave Pearson, Lane Gamble of the PR staff of the Seahawks will work to make sure that the family of Michael Bennett is informed as we head back to the field. 2 timeouts. Foster runs the football, and the clock will set up for a Randy Bullock field goal as the Texans use a timeout. And we will update whatever we can on Michael Bennett. If not in this game, certainly throughout the afternoon on the NFL on Fox. It's a doubleheader weekend. Kurt and the guys in the studio will keep an eye on the situation. 42-yard attempt for Bullock, who made a 22-yarder earlier this season, which is his career long. He was injured all of last year. A 47-yarder. And Gary Kubiak's team embarrassed the way they played. Remember, they also had 14 penalties, equaling a team record last week on the road in Baltimore when they got blown out. Said Wednesday was the best week of practice all year. It certainly has showed today against a very good Seattle football team.
Yeah, they've been terrific in all 3 phases, the Houston Texans.
The kick he got it good. And it looks like there's a flag down.
I think somebody had too many players on the field.
I saw a member of the Seahawks running off at the last moment, and he didn't make it off the field on the far sideline.
Yeah, there's Heath Farwell trying to get off, and that ball is snapped clearly before he can get to the sideline.
Certainly the Texans can decline and take the 3.
Illegal substitution. Player had not left the field on the defense. The penalty is declined. The result of the play, field goal is good.
1 second remains. And who would have thought the Texans would have a 20-3 advantage? Let's check in with Kurt Menefee.
Coming up at the Visa halftime, the Bengals and Browns clash in the battle for Ohio. We'll see what's going on across the pond as the Steelers take on the Vikings. And we promise not to make a Big Ben or Castle in London reference. At least we'll try not to. It's all on the Visa halftime.
Thanks, Kurt. You can't help it. You go across the pond. How about the unbeaten Chiefs with a narrow lead over the winless Giants?
I give the Giants a lot of credit. They are a match unit now with all of their injuries.
The Buccaneers, with Mike Glennon, the rookie quarterback, since Josh Freeman was sent to the bench, have a 10-0 lead on the Arizona Cardinals. I know Seahawks fans interested in that in the NFC West. The 49ers getting right against the Rams on Thursday. Pete Carroll was talking to us a little bit about that.
Well, this Houston team now has got to go out to San Francisco next week. San Francisco on an extra long rest, having played on Thursday night. I'll tell you, the front end of this Texans schedule is brutal.
A rough first half, physically and on the scoreboard for the Seahawks. Seattle gets the football to start the second half. Tim Ryan, Chris Myers enjoying the NFL on Fox. Kurt Menefee coming up. A lot of wide smiles in Texas this afternoon as we get ready to start the third quarter. The Texans, a couple of touchdown tosses from Matt Schaub, have a 20-3 advantage. Follow your favorite team all season long. Go to itunes.com/NFL. With Tim Ryan, Jennifer Hale on the field, Chris Myers, and Russell Wilson, who's never in his pro career, he's never been out of a game by more than 7 points that he lost. Obviously, he's won a lot of games, including a playoff game last year.
Every game that he has played in has been tight. I mean, you look at all 5 of their losses last year, they were all within a touchdown. I think an average of 4 points. This is uncharted territory for this young quarterback, Russell Wilson, and this Seattle football team.
And again, 3 offensive line starters out of this game. Center Max Unger was more recently inactive for this game. Russell Okung you knew about. Breno Giacomini, who celebrated his 28th birthday on Friday with a knee injury, inactive. But Matt Schaub has weathered the heat from the fans here to build a 17-point advantage, and Marshawn Lynch at the key fumble. Bullock, who has made a couple of field goals for the Texans, kicking off. Jermaine Kearse from the end zone. He's bringing it out. Kearse knocked down at the 25, and a good-looking return. Well, this is a bit of a surprise. 2 of the elite teams in the National Football League. But let's talk about Russell Wilson, what he can do. He had a 300-yard passing game on the road to start the season. They rallied from a 4-point deficit to win.
Well, they need to move him around the pocket. They need to start getting to those bootlegs, those nakeds, letting him kind of move his launch point in the pocket. But he's going to need help. That offensive line's got to protect him better. I think it's really that simple when you look at Russell Wilson. I mean, 0 for 4 on third down, which has really limited their play opportunities. Only 17 plays in the first half.
He's been sacked 3 times now. Merciless and Antonio Smith combined have had a lot of combination sacks of the Texans today.
Well, you're getting a lot of one-on-ones to other guys. I mean, Antonio Smith, one-on-one, he makes it happen. Whitney Merciless, one-on-one, he makes it happen. And that's what you have to do. I mean, if J.J. Watt is going to chew on all those double teams and they're going to send protection his way, these pass rushers that are getting the one-on-ones, they've got to get home. That's been the story today.
Here comes a flag on 2nd down and 16.
False start. Offense. Most of the offensive line.
And let's give this crowd a lot of credit. I mean, they have done their part and made their contributions today. That false start is all on the crowd noise. And if you watch these defensive linemen and all the pressure when Russell has thrown, and again, limited opportunities, they are beating Seattle's offensive line off the snap.
2nd and 21. Wilson has only attempted 5 passes. Deep drop for the safety, so he goes underneath to Marshawn Lynch, who fights to get up to the 21-yard line. Let's check in with Jennifer Hale.
Well, Chris, Seattle Seahawks Michael Bennett is at the hospital right now, but we do have some good news on him. He has all movement and all feeling. Right now it's being called a lower back injury, and the Seahawks are hopeful that he will be able to make a full recovery. Chris?
Thank you, Jennifer. We saw his father here in the stands. Again, he's from Texas, but that is encouraging news that it's not as serious as it looked for Michael Bennett.
I'm just glad it's low back and not neck.
3rd and 13. Wilson has time. He puts a move on, but not enough. Following him up was the spy, Whitney Merciless.
Wade Phillips told us he was going to do this, the defensive corner with Whitney Merciless, who lines up inside that time and rushing over the guard. And Wade said he was going to use him as a spy. He said, if you're going to spy Russell Wilson, you better have a player that can run with Russell Wilson. And Whitney Merciless showed right there that he could.
Wade Wilson, his father, Bum Phillips. They all know the Love You Blue here in Houston. Bryant gets the kick away. Keyshawn Martin grabs it on the bounce and hangs on at the 25.5-yard line. Jeremy Lane after a 52-yard punt. There is a flag down. Flag dropped at the 35-yard line.
At the conclusion of the play, personal foul, unnecessary roughness, receiving team number 35 with a headbutt. This penalty be assessed half the distance to the goal. First down. That's on Eddie Pleasant, a headbutt, so not very appropriate for his name. Texans have the football. Penalty backs them up to the 13-yard line. Last 4 possessions, they've scored. Schaub on first down to throw. And open is Owen Daniels. That's what has surprised me, Tim. The pass rush is one thing, but this secondary, the way that Schaub has been able to pick them apart today.
Well, Schaub's on his game, and he's comfortable, and he's going to pump fake out to the right. You'll see he probably already pumped. Yeah, it already did. And then he comes back to the left and just throws it right over Malcolm Smith, the outside linebacker. And Owen Daniels is just waiting right in the hole. Matt Schaub is on fire.
4 catches for Daniels. 21-yard pickup. Hand off Foster. And he gets to the 40-yard line. How about a dance around? Brandon Browner from the corner spot brought him down.
Well, that was, you'll call it a dance. I'll call it a wicked move on K.J. Wright. Just froze K.J. Wright and shook him down. And, of course, Brandon Browner was able to come clean it up. Watch this move on K.J. Wright right in your face.
Texans have run the ball, Tim, 20 times. When they run it 30 times or more, they are practically unbeatable. A record of 43 wins and 5 defeats. On 2nd and 4, they're running it to Foster from the 40. It'll be close to the marker.
I think one thing, when you look at today's world, right, with all the social media and all the information that's out there, it's like so many people overreact either one way or the other. Each week. I mean, you're only as good as your last performance now.
Each minute.
That's right. That's right. And I think it's easy to forget how good Arian Foster has been. I know he had a slow finish last year. We did the Minnesota game here where he had the regular heartbeat, a slow start to this season. This guy is a great running back.
And he says he's feeling fine now. 3rd and 1. Hand off Foster. And he gets the first down. In Seattle territory at the 47-yard line.
Look at the tiny crease that he's able to squeeze through. Right inside Brandon Mebane, who's playing him to the outside. Watch 92 here, and then Wagner's going to come up inside. And watch the little crease, Foster, right in between them both. That's sickening good.
Nobody has carried the ball more over the last 2 years than Arian Foster. Marshawn Lynch right behind him, and he scored the most rushing touchdowns the last 2 seasons. Schaub on first down is in trouble and spun around at midfield by Tony McDaniel.
And Seattle is very lucky they had some pressure on Schaub there and made him pull it down, because the tight end was wide open down the seam for a touchdown. I believe it was Owen Daniels again.
Seahawks' first sack of this game, and it brings up a 2nd down and 12, spotted at the 49-yard line. You heard, if you tuned in a little bit later, Jennifer Hale's report that Michael Bennett at the hospital with his father. Lower back injury. Injured in the first half. Foster knocked back, and an excellent defensive play. Clinton McDonald makes it 3rd and long.
tell you, he's kind of rose up here the last couple of weeks. Clinton McDonald last week got on the quarterback a couple of times. Here, a big tackle for loss. They need that inside presence playing nose guard.
And now the Texans will have to get to the 37 for a first down. That's the 37 of Seattle. On 3rd and 15. Four-man rush. Flag is down. Looked like somebody jumped, and the pass is incomplete. Shot through it low for Garrett Graham. But it looked like somebody on Seattle's.
May have been Chris Clemens, I think.
Defensive line.
Offside. Defense, number 91, in the neutral zone at the snap. 5-yard penalty. Repeat. Third down.
That'll make it 3rd and 10 as they move the penalty up. Talked about the way Schaub has worked the field.
Hey, and I think a big criticism, certainly after that Baltimore game, was the inability to, drive it down the field last week. And conversely, Seattle's done nothing but hit it down the field with the big plays. Not today. Houston has owned that statistical number.
3rd and 10. Schaub gets away. Throws to wide, complete for Foster. He had it around the 41-yard line and couldn't hang on to it. And it will be Shane Leckler time. The longtime Raider, Shane Leckler. As we said, high school in the area of Texas, and that the Seahawks have more players from the state of Texas on their roster, active roster, than do the Texans. But Leckler, one of those, and he'll try to drop it inside the 10. Golden Tate waving for the fair catch. Gets out of the way. It looked like it hit a Texan player. The Seahawks should come out of this okay. The Texans a little frustrated, but they have a 20-3 advantage. Russell Wilson during the year has hit 10 different receivers at least twice. Today he's only found 2 targets. Golden Tate and Marshawn Lynch. He's in trouble. And incomplete for Sidney Rice. Brian Cushing applying pressure. Pete Carroll talked about that combination of J.J. Watt and Brian Cushing, how they maneuver.
Well, they're really a package deal, and Wade Phillips uses them right. He stacks them together, and of course, J.J. Watt's usually going to take 2. That's going to leave Brian Cushing with only 1 guy, that time being Marshawn Lynch, and he ran right by him. It's a huge part of what they do in terms of rushing the passer.
Marshawn Lynch will lose yardage. It's Cushing and Watt together. Cushing played at USC under Pete Carroll, and thanks him for all of his football savvy, building him into a pro.
Well, that Seattle team needs some football savvy right now. You get the feeling they don't even have a chance against this Houston defense. I mean, Houston is all over. I mean, there's been one big run in this game, the Marshawn Lynch run. Other than that, there's really been nothing from this Seattle offense. Houston's all over it.
Sidney Rice at the 30, right near the first down marker. On an important 3rd down throw that's good enough for a first down.
That's their first 3rd down conversion of this football game. And when you link that up, connect the dots to the big picture, it just tells you that they've had 23 plays to 53 plays for the Houston Texans. And look at those drives in the last 5 possessions.
Sidney Rice's first catch of the game, had a big game last week, but that was against Jacksonville, and they were playing in Seattle. Russell Wilson floats one and has his tight end, Zach Miller. He had a big game last week. First 2 touchdown game of his career. Let's check in with Kurt Menefee.
New quarterback to the Vikings, the same old Adrian Peterson in the backfield. Stutter steps his way to a 7-yard score. Second touchdown of the day. He's already over 100 yards, and they've got a 10-point lead in London over the Steelers, looking for that first win. Chris and Tim.
Thanks, Kurt. Trying to get their first win of the year. Seattle won a 7 unbeaten teams, but trailing. Russell Wilson has it after a fake, slides before. Looked like he got to the first down marker.
Yeah, he's definitely down.
Gave himself up.
Yeah.
It's not like him. Usually he's aware of where the sticks are.
I think they really are in the ear of Russell Wilson to not get hit. I mean, limit your risk as much as possible. Pete Carroll wants that spot challenger at least looked at, but when you give yourself up, you know, as soon as you do that, where the ball is, in terms of its location, is where they're going to mark it down.
Marshawn Lynch will not get the first down, and J.J. Watt is there.
J.J. Watt, which makes him the best, in my opinion, is he's such a complete player, and he knows situation. He knows they're going to run away. Watch him crash down the line of scrimmage and then just burst with power up through Paul McQuiston and make a tackle for loss on Marshawn Lynch and force a punt to the Seattle Seahawks. His game is dominant, Chris, in every phase, and that includes football intelligence.
I know he's a defensive player of the year, but he just doesn't get the headlines that some of the other players around the league get. As Ryan on 4th and short kicks it away. Fair catch. Keyshawn Martin has it. And the Texans will be on offense after J.J. Watt led the defense to force a 4th down punt. J.J. Watt certainly looks like he's done more than those statistics will show you. He's been all over the place against the Seattle offense. Texans on offense as Ben Tate checks in and gets across the 20-yard line. Pre-game J.J. Watt, you know, he's a regular hangout chat kind of guy. Look at him having fun with the kids before
he gets it, and that's what it's all about with the kids. They love him. You said people don't know him as a household name. They're either not listening or not watching. He does everything great except that release. See where he throws the ball?
Yeah, don't pick on him. He was saying they had pregame music and they were playing Shakira here in the stadium, and I heard him say anything but Shakira. I'll take country, Metallica, anything.
He is a stud. He gets that far away, looks like old Howie Long used to get, the Hall of Famer.
He's been dominating today. Ball is out. And a scramble near the side. The Seahawks have it. Bobby Wagner looked like he fell on it before it went out of bounds. And Malcolm Smith knocked it away from Tate. Seattle's second takeaway.
Here's Tate, who's just trying to bounce it to the outside. Malcolm Smith, just coming off a block from behind, just reaches out with his right arm and rips the ball out. And Wagner clearly recovered it inbounds.
Seahawks looking for a tipping point in this game, and Wagner's fumble recovery reviewed upstairs. They check all change of possession turnovers. It has been confirmed. Best field position for the Seahawks today, trailing by 17. From the 21 of Houston, Russell Wilson. Tipped away and incomplete off the hands of Sidney Rice.
And those are usually trouble versus his own defense when that ball gets popped up in the air. Fortunate that one wasn't intercepted. Look, Seattle down 17. You know these guys, despite how bad it's been today, they believe they can win. They have won 8 consecutive regular season games. 5 to finish last year and 3 to start this season. They're not going to stop believing till that final gun sound.
From the 21, Wilson. Sideline throw toward the goal line for Rice and misfires. He's gone to Rice the last 3 times. He's put the ball up. Sidney Rice has 1 catch. It'll be 3rd and 10.
And Jonathan Joseph, who's been shadowing Sidney Rice throughout this game. Now, not a lot of opportunities with limited throws and all the pressure, but Joseph has done a fine job.
Seahawks 1 for 7 on 3rd down. Stephen Williams checks in the game.
Look at that.
Top of your screen, the angular receiver. That's 6'5". Russell's in trouble, and Wilson gets out of it. On the move, throws, incomplete. Zach Miller was in the area, but it's 4th down. Stephen Hauschka will come on to try a field goal.
Man, he is so fast and spinning out that side door. Whitney Merciless has got to stay on the upfield shoulder of Russell Wilson. As soon as he gets flat, Russell Wilson feels it, spins right out, buys as much time as he can, and then just gets blasted on the sideline as he unloaded that football.
Stephen Hauschka, who's been with 5 other NFL teams before finding a place here in Seattle, already made one earlier. 39 yards. It's up and through. And that's all Pete Carroll's team has been able to get today. A pair of field goals in a defensive struggle. It's been a bloody fight, and the Texans hold the upper hand. J.J. Watt, a nice guy who plays angry.
There's that far away look I was talking about, like Howie Long.
He didn't even want the trainer getting
he didn't want him touching him. Get away, man. I got it.
Well, you said at the beginning it was going to be a real fight in the trenches. Hauschka kicks off. Martin is going to bring it out. And gets across the 20. Fox tomorrow, people losing their heads over the new hit series Sleepy Hollow. The critics are saying it's ridiculously entertaining, Fright Night fun. See for yourself why Rolling Stone says it's the most fun you'll have with a new television series this fall. An all-new Sleepy Hollow. It's tomorrow night, 9 Eastern, 8 Central, and you said J.J. Watt's a real monster.
Put this monster in the monster movie.
Top 2 defenses in the league, and they're playing that way. On first down, Schaub with time goes underneath to Arian Foster, who gets a first down.
Well, one of them is, at least, Seattle's defense, Chris, is getting picked apart. This to me is shocking, and you got to wonder if you're Pete Carroll and Dan Quinn, the defensive coordinator. And I know that they're going to have a lot of balance coming at them in terms of the run and the pass, because Seattle's got a nice lead. But you got to start sending pressure now on these passing downs. You may have to start sending one of those extra linebackers or safeties.
You said from the start, and it goes with most teams, but when the Texans don't have to play from behind, when they're ahead, they're a much different offense.
Absolutely.
After a 12-yard pickup, Schaub to Foster. He gets to the 35-yard line. Red Bryant brings him down. I mentioned the Seahawks secondary, Tim, that they've gone the last 11 games without allowing a 300-yard passer. That's the second longest streak. The Bengals have gone 17 straight, but Matt Schaub is up around 260 so far today with under 3 to go here in the fourth quarter remaining.
Well, a big part of it is they've been in third manageable, right on the third downs when they have to throw, and then there has not been a lot of consistent pressure on Matt Schaub. Sacked him one time. That's going to be hard on any secondary. I don't care how good you are.
19th carry for Foster. He runs into his own man. Knocks a helmet off and gets to the 45 for another Texan first down. Mebane lost the helmet, and I mentioned that you run it 30 times, you got a good chance of winning if you're the Texans. Look at that record, and they're getting close to that. So far, they've run it 26 so far.
And that's the same play they started the game with. Block down with the tight ends, bounce it to the outside, and Foster gets another big gain.
From the 46-yard line, mild-mannered Gary Kubiak, at least he appears that way publicly.
That's the players in the locker room when things aren't going well.
He said he lets them police themselves, and he needed to this week. Going nowhere is Foster.
That's just so good by Brandon Mebane inside the defensive tackle. You don't play any better at the point of attack defending the run as a nose tackle than Brandon Mebane did right there. I mean, watch what he does to Chris Myers and pushing him in the backfield, creating a new line of scrimmage, and then disengaging and getting on the tackle. That's clinic defensive line play against the run.
That's what you do to Chris Myers in production meetings after a smart remark.
Your hair's better than his, though.
On second down 12 from the 44. Schaub's throw, incomplete for Martin. It'll be third down. And what a survival moment for that Texan defense after the turnover in the last series, Tim, holding Seattle to a field goal.
Well, they're on their game today, and we ran the graphic right before that play. I mean, teams have been down in the red zone against Houston's defense 8 times coming into this game. 7 touchdowns against Wade Phillips' defense. That's last in the NFL. They had put a Band-Aid on all their issues today.
On 3rd and 12, Seahawks want to keep this to a 2-score game. Their defense is on the spot. Time for Schaub. midfield complete to Daniels, but not enough for the first down. Riding him out of bounds, or at least bringing him down, was Cam Chancellor, and it'll be a 4th down punt attempt for the Texans.
Chancellor's got a little limp to him there as he's going off the field.
Chancellor leads the team with 2 interceptions, 34 and counting, under 30 here in the 3rd quarter. Shane Leckler. Golden Tate watches it. He grabs it and goes out of bounds.
Not a good decision by Golden Tate.
There's a flag down, Tim, after a 48-yard punt and no return. One of the reasons Pete Carroll has Golden Tate back there is because
during the kick, holding receiving team number 87. This penalty be assessed half the distance to the goal. First down.
Kellen Davis's 3rd penalty, and the awkward catch and out of bounds movement backs him up inside the 1.5-yard line.
And if you watch Houston's defense this year, they have had some of these situations where they've had an offense backed up into their own goal line, and they've been really good in this situation up front, that being Houston.
Inside the 2-yard line, trailing by 14.
Yeah, they're getting all their big linebackers on the field and just going to try to hammer Seattle right into the end zone.
The ball looks like it's loose on the exchange. Russell Wilson fell on it. Remember, that's Lemuel Jean-Pierre, the backup center, who did practice all week, but with Max Unger out with the arm and tricep injury. Surprised that hasn't happened earlier in this game. And that is the end of the 3rd quarter here in Houston. J.J. Watt and the Texans have built a 20-6 lead over the unbeaten Seahawks. We welcome you here in the 4th quarter. Backed up at the 1-yard line, 2nd and 11. Wilson floats it and completes to Derek Coleman, who's knocked out at the 5 by Jonathan Joseph. It'll be 3rd down. Derek Coleman, the 2nd-year fullback from UCLA, who lost his hearing at the age of 3 and plays legally deaf. In Seattle, they don't know the story. He reads lips and hand signals, but has been productive for Pete Carroll. And now a 3rd and 7.
Zach Miller back going in this game here, playing tight end.
Wilson from his own end zone. What an effort on the sideline, and did he stay in? No. Doug Baldwin went up to get it. The official standing over there said he was out of bounds.
Well, you got all the coaches over on the sideline yelling that he was in. Let's take a peek here. There's the right toe. That's in.
You're allowed to push.
Left toe. That is a catch. That is a catch.
Does he maintain possession of the ball all the way through?
Yeah, that's the question, because 1 toe in, 2nd toe in. And it looked like if that ball did move, his right arm was underneath it as he comes down to the ground. Yeah, that's a catch. You got to challenge this if you're Pete Carroll.
And Pete Carroll is going to challenge it. It's a 3rd down play. Otherwise, you're giving it up out of your own end zone.
No, you got to challenge this. I'll tell you what, Russell Wilson to Doug Baldwin, when it's on the line, those guys are money. Remember the Carolina game week 1?
Seattle is challenging the ruling on the field of an incomplete pass.
All right, ruled incomplete. Pete Carroll says it's a catch. In challenges, replay challenges this season, Pete Carroll is 1 for 2, about 45% over his pro career. And as the replay official takes a look, Howard Slavin watching it closely. Some of the sites around the stadium here in Houston, Texas, where it was ruled incomplete on the field, challenged by Pete Carroll.
After reviewing the play, the receiver put both feet in bounds and maintained control of the ball when he went out of bounds to the ground. This is a catch. It will be Seattle's ball, first down and 10 at the 29-yard line. Seattle will not be charged with a timeout.
And a big play on third down, a 24-yard gain, Baldwin's first catch of the game.
And look at the body control, getting those toes to touch down inbounds, just right inside the white stripe, out of bounds. That's what Doug Baldwin does. I mean, he makes circus catches at big times.
The right overturned, and a good challenge by Carroll. From the 29, Russell Wilson is running around. He's going to get a first down. He's going to be in Houston territory and go out of bounds around the 45-yard line.
Now, Brooks Reed cannot get pinned inside. It's really that simple. A 3-4 defense with these outside guys, it's really designed to keep the quarterback in the pocket. Watch Brooks Reed peek down inside. Now he's going to get trapped in there. Russell Wilson gets outside. Now he's just standing surveying the field, sees man coverage. He's just going to take off and get a big one with his legs.
Now Brian Cushington went to the locker room being checked for a possible concussion, so he's out of there after a 25-yard run. And here's Marshawn Lynch trying to get to the 41-yard line. So with Cushing out, it changes things a little bit. I remember J.J. Watt talking about Russell Wilson. Their pass did not connect at Wisconsin, but Watt said, when I played against Terrell Pryor in college, he reminds me of the way Russell Wilson runs around.
Yeah, he's just a much better thrower than Terrell Pryor. And Cushing told us the same thing about Russell Wilson. He said, this guy, when he gets out of the pocket, and they've done a good job hemming him up today, he said he may be the best in the NFL out.
On second down, Lynch to the 25, and tough running yards before Jonathan Joseph, the corner, brought him down.
And right up the gut, they catch Antonio Smith with a little pass rush move, trying to get to the outside, able to move him down the line of scrimmage. Marshawn Lynch, a big hole right in between the tackles.
A 17-yard gain. He's averaging today on 11 carries. Over 7 yards. Came in averaging 3.5 yards a carry. Wilson, sideline throw. It's caught. Jermaine Kearse.
I think they're going to get him for OPI here. Offensive pass interference pushing off. I don't think Pete Carroll knows it yet.
You could see when the ball was in the air.
Pass interference. Offense, number 15. Pushed out the defender. 10-yard penalty. Repeat. First down.
And here it is, right here. And see how the push right there just created enough separation. And when you get an overt push like that, Brandon Harris it pushes him back just a half a yard, but that push created separation. That's a good call.
It erases what would have been a touchdown, but the right call. That was Brandon Harris on the coverage. So now it's 1st and 20 for the Seahawks at the 35 of Houston. For Golden Tate.
That looked like defensive holding at a minimum by Bryce McCain right there.
Yeah, he covers the slot receiver, and certainly downfield looks like he got his hands on Tate. There was no flag.
They had him out on the perimeter that time.
You got a guy 5'9" and 5'10". Let's take a closer look.
And watch McCain reach out. Hard to see from that angle if he actually had a handful of jersey and restricting Golden Tate from taking off.
They let him play. It's 2nd and 20. Wilson from the pocket is in trouble. He gets out of trouble. There's plenty of room in front of him. Falls down at the 23-yard line, where it'll be 3rd down.
And that's it. Russell Wilson's going to have to start taking over this game with all the pass rush. Watch J.J. Watt right here. He's got 2 guys on him. There's Sweezy. There's Lynch. Sweezy again. He's just going to keep battling. Russell Wilson realizes, look, there's just too much pressure. They're playing man coverage down the field. Got to extend plays, and I'm going to have to run and make some plays.
3rd down. Doug Baldwin falls and makes the first down catch. He's their third down go-to guy. And with just over 11 minutes remaining, the Seahawks are on the move.
It's amazing when Russell Wilson starts to get out of the pocket and starts to make plays, how it just loosens up the coverage on the back end.
Well, they work on that scramble drill. They have certain places where they want their receivers going when Russell starts running. And as you pointed out, he doesn't look to just run. He looks to throw on the run. Here comes the flag.
Full start. Offensive line missing the snap count. 5-yard penalty remains. First down.
Everybody but the center. Jean-Pierre didn't snap it. The other 4 guys were rolling off the ball.
So now 1st and 15 from the 19-yard line. Wait a minute. I think I'm supposed to snap that ball. Three receivers on the right side. Bottom of your screen. It's Tate, Sidney Rice, and Baldwin. Russell Wilson is going to go down. Whoever's involved, you know, J.J. Watt with his bloody face is in the picture.
Now there's Watt. Watch the get off. First guy off the line of scrimmage, has 2 guys on him. Merciless comes free and will get credit for that sack. But J.J. Watt helps him clean it up. You've got to be so impressed with the other players around J.J. Watt. And I said it early in the game. They're going to get one-on-ones. They have to have an impact. Merciless has had a big impact on this game so far.
4 sacks for the Texans. And 2nd down at 24. Wilson keeps it. Is trying to get outside. Get some blocking over there from Kearse. Down to the 15-yard line. It'll be 3rd down. Let's check in with Kurt Menefee.
The Kansas City Chiefs trying to stay perfect. Dexter McCluster spinning on a punt return and then gone against the Giants. 89 yards for the score. No separation between KC and the Giants after that. It's now a 10-point game as we close out the 3rd quarter. Chris and Tim?
Thanks, Kurt. On 3rd and 13. Trailing by 14. 4 wide receivers for Wilson. Here comes pressure. He gets rid of it and open at the 10. It's Golden Tate. Short of the 1st down. Is this 4-down territory?
Yeah, I think you got to go for it on offense. I really do.
Looks like they're about 3 yards away. Pending the spot. They spot it at the 7-yard line, so it's 4th down and 2.
Let's see if they get Russell Wilson outside the pocket here on a run-pass option. Because
we'll call it 3. Yeah. 3 yards to go. Russell Wilson has it. He's under pressure. He somehow got near the sticks. That's amazing. It looked like he had nowhere to go.
Well, they had it played and defended really well, Houston defensively, but Russell Wilson is sneaky fast when he gets outside the pocket, and then here it's just all about courage and no fear. I mean, he's going to put his head down and know that he needs to get past the 1st down stick and knowing that he's going to get hit.
A 4-yard run when they needed 2.5, and it's 1st and goal, Seahawks. Pitch to Marshawn Lynch. Plenty of room. He's in for the score. Untouched.
I don't think Houston was ever lined up right.
And it looks like they have a touchdown run for Lynch. Over 80 yards today. But it was the running of Russell Wilson that set all this up.
That's right, and it's the block right here. McQuiston, as they're going to flip it right out to Lynch. Watch McQuiston on Swearinger. Just too much body for Swearinger to go through. That was easy, but J.J. Watt had his arms out like they were not lined up right on defense. It's too easy.
A 98-yard drive. The extra point crucial here. Seahawks within 7. Capped off by the Marshawn Lynch touchdown run, but the 4th down play from Russell Wilson set it all up. They keep it for 7.5 minutes, go 98 yards, and it's a one-score game. Tim Ryan, Chris Myers here in Houston, where the Seahawks have bounced back, trailing much of this game. And a 98-yard drive has them within 7 as Hauschka kicks off to Keyshawn Martin. And the Texan offense will take over at the 20-yard line. Houston trying to protect the lead in a tight defensive struggle between the Texans and Seahawks. For a complete recap of Week 4 of the NFL, as well as what's going on with the final playoff spot in baseball and the firing of Lane Kiffin, make sure to check out Jay and Dan on Fox Sports Live tonight every night at 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific on Fox Sports 1. And go to foxsports1.com to find out where you can get it. First down, Texans. They lead by 7. Shot comes out firing. Incomplete for Andre Johnson. Brandon Browner covering. And Tim, on that last drive, certainly with Brian Cushing in the locker room being checked for a possible concussion, the Texans missed his play on defense.
There's no doubt. I mean, it's no surprise and or coincidence that Seattle starts making plays offensively once Brian Cushing went to the locker room. And really a lion's share of those plays, of course, the huge catch by Baldwin on that third down on the sideline that was challenged. But Russell Wilson really just being a playmaker and putting this Seahawk team on his back right now.
Second down, 10 for Shaw. Pressure coming from Chris Clemens. It'll be 3rd and long.
And they move Chris Clemens over to the left side and let him rush on Derek Newton. Here comes Clemens here, and he's just going to keep working to the outside. Matt Schaub just needs to step up. It's almost like he felt him and almost wanted to dig a hole right there like he was sacked. I mean, if he would have stood up and stayed on his feet, I think he could have extended that play a little bit longer.
Back at the 11-yard line, Clemens' first sack of the season. That's the second of the game for Seattle. If they don't get some yardage here, it's going to be a good field position spot for Seattle. Shot goes underneath to Keyshawn Martin, but the Seahawks swarm, and it's 4th down.
It's almost since Cushing went out in that third down play to Baldwin, and then, of course, the drive that scored points there to Marshawn Lynch, the momentum has completely swung into the favor of the Seattle Seahawks.
Texans have not scored in the second half. His energy never stops. Pete Carroll, if you saw the NFL on Fox pregame show, he said that this team was better than last year's team, which was on the doorstep of the NFC title game. And he talked about his quarterback being too good to be true, Russell Wilson. Golden Tate has it at the 40. In Texan territory, knocked out at the 46-yard line, and the Seahawks are 46 yards away from tying this game with just over 6 minutes to play. An 18-yard return, and the second-year quarterback is on the spot. Russell Wilson has 6 career fourth-quarter comebacks, 1 in the postseason. He needs 7 to tie from the 47 of Houston. First down. Wilson in trouble and incomplete. Looking for his tight end. Let's check in for a game break again with Kurt Menefee.
And how about the Kansas City Chiefs trying to remain perfect on the season? Sweet punt return by Dexter McCluster against the Giants. 89 yards for the score. And they put a little separation between themselves and New York, up by 10 in the fourth quarter. Chris and Tim.
Thanks, Kurt. Chiefs try to stay unbeaten. Looks like the Bears are going to fall from the ranks of the unbeaten, getting blown out in Detroit. Straight ahead run Lynch. It'll be 3rd down. Russell Wilson, that last drive, he ran the ball. In fact, he's rushed for 56 yards in this game.
And he's not always escaping out the side door. Sometimes it's right up the middle. That time he recovers the fumble down on his own 1. Now he's going to do his best friend Tarkington, spin around, get to the outside, pick up huge yards. Here was a big one on 4th down, and then, of course, the Marshawn Lynch touchdown. There's nobody out there to defend him. They got to keep Russell Wilson in the pocket at all costs, Houston defensively.
On 3rd and 8, extra pressure. He throws, and it's intercepted. Picked off at the 43 by Jonathan Joseph.
What a great job by DJ Swearinger keeping Russell Wilson in the pocket. I just said it. You got at all costs keep Russell in the pocket. He wanted to get out to his left. Swearinger was there, and he just put it up for grabs. Bad decision to throw that ball back across his body in the middle of the field, and Joseph with a huge interception.
His first interception of the year. The Texans only have 2 interceptions in this, now the 4th game of the season, but at the 43, Houston with control of the football and just over 5 minutes to go. Arian Foster pushing across the and still pushing the pile up near midfield. They're getting close to that 30 rushing attempts mark, which in Houston spells victory in most cases. Each team with 3 timeouts.
They have taken it to Seattle right to the inside of that run defense. I mean, Seattle, the way they line up, they're going to usually defend all those outside bounce plays. And Gary Kubiak and his offensive staff have responded by running it right up the gut for some nice runs.
Each team with 2 turnovers. Now 2nd down 4. They spotted at the 49 of Houston. Foster near the first down marker, and this is where every yard, every minute, every second counts. It is a first down. You can hear the crowd, and they've been a part of this all day.
See Foster out there barking. This is contagious now. These guys want to seize this moment and take the air out of the football and not give it back to Seattle. Make them use those turnovers or those timeouts.
We talked at the top of the broadcast, 2 teams with big picture ideas. They've earned the right to talk about the postseason, maybe a Super Bowl appearance. Arian Foster battles hard. Gary Kubiak very clear about how his team did not play well had they had not been themselves this season. And for Kubiak, running the ball, keeping it away from Russell Wilson, as that is the 30th rushing attempt for the Texans.
And despite, you know, what the perception is and people not believing in this Houston football team, I thought Schaub was outstanding the first 2 weeks with those comeback wins. They were all awful last week. It wasn't just on Schaub. And Schaub said it. He said our expectations this year, they're higher than they've ever been. I mean, we know we got to get better, but we know we got really good players on this team.
Foster again to the 40 and inside the Seattle 40. Bobby Wagner with the stop. Over 100 yards for
Seattle's
Arian
going to
Foster.
start chewing those timeouts up.
24th career 100-yard game. Let's head down to the field and Jennifer Hale.
Well, Chris, the Texans training staff has confirmed that linebacker Brian Cushing is now out with a concussion. The Texans players obviously hoping they won't need him in this last 2 minutes and 51 seconds to hold off the Seahawks, Chris.
Thanks, Jen. Well, the big interception by Jonathan Joseph has put the ball back in the hands of the Texans. If you missed it earlier, the Michael Bennett injury, who was taken to the hospital, and the preliminary reports, a lower back injury. We're thankful certainly for that. And we don't know exactly, Tim. We went back to look to see where Cushing may have suffered the head injury.
Maybe right there as his mask just went right to the back of the helmet of Sidney Rice. But he gets up smiling, and yeah, now he's got all right. You know, that does look like that's where it happened to Brian Cushing.
After a Seattle timeout, 3rd and 4. Sean has it, throws, and it's intercepted by Richard Sherman. He's going down the sideline. He has followers, and not just on Twitter. Touchdown Seahawks.
That is Matt Schaub just acting on his behavior pattern, knowing that he is going to bootleg out and he's just going to throw that out route. And Richard Sherman played it the whole way. I mean, number one, they hem him up in the pocket as he peels out, but Richard Sherman is just going to poach this route. He knew it was coming to Owen Daniels out there, the tight end, jumps the route, and of course there's nobody catching Richard Sherman. with the pick six house call touchdown. That is a bad decision by Matt Schaub to throw that ball in that situation.
And that's the third this year. An interception run back for a touchdown on the part of Schaub. 58 yards for Richard Sherman. And with the extra point, Seattle's defense produces a tie with 2:40 to go. On 3rd down and 4, Schaub's throw intercepted by Sherman, who, as we pointed out earlier, has been the best corner in the league the last 2 years.
And Matt Schaub's been playing too long to make that kind of mental error, because that's what it is. I mean, if you have to, if you can't do anything, and he knows it, take the sack and punt it away and trust your defense being up in this game, and now it's tied up with a little more than 2 minutes. That's just an awful decision by Matt Schaub to unload that ball.
Second career interception return for a touchdown for Richard Sherman.
And I asked Richard about that. I said, Matt Schaub is so good pre-snap where he wants to go with it, but you guys also know where he wants to go with the ball. Will you be poaching any of that, you know, as I like to call it, the behavior pattern of Matt Schaub? He said absolutely.
Sherman talked to us about growing up with a father who drives a garbage truck, gets up at 4 a.m. every day. His mom works with patients who battle mental illness, and said that's where he picked up his work ethic.
I don't know if people realize how likable Richard Sherman is as a guy when you sit and talk to him.
House going to kick off. Texans have all 3 of their timeouts remaining. And I'm sure in here in Houston to the fans it probably feels like they're losing, but it's a tie game and the Texans have the football. Fox tonight, you have what it takes to survive the return of animation domination. Tune in and enjoy the season premiere. Favorites of all the shows that you like, starting when Kristen Wiig will guest star with The Simpsons. That's tonight. Animation domination on Fox. Texans control of this football game. They trailed 3-0 early, built a 20-3 advantage. But a defensive score for Seattle has us tied at 20. Schaub, what a catch at the 36-yard line. Leaping in the air is Andre Johnson.
So got plenty of time, all 3 timeouts. You got your whole playbook open. You don't have to throw to the sideline to stop the clock. You can stop it with those timeouts. And went right back after Richard Sherman again. Let's see if they get a play in here before the 2-minute warning.
After the 17-yard pickup, Tim. Remember, the Seahawks only have 2 timeouts. Texans, as you mentioned, all 3. Sideline to Andre Johnson again. Gets out of bounds right at the 2-minute warning. Seahawks have battled back to tie here in Houston, but the Texans have the ball and are on the move. Texans had a 20-3 lead in the 3rd quarter. Seattle has scored 17 points to tie this game. Texans have not scored in the second half. And Matt Schaub, 14 game-winning drives in his career.
Now this offensive line's got to protect bottom line, because here comes pressure.
It'll be 3rd down. Foster got back to the 45-yard line. K.J. Wright with a big stop. And now, as the clock runs, Texans not only want to get in field goal range.
Boy, they're sure taking their time here with 3 timeouts.
I don't think they want to leave a chance for Seattle to get the football back on 3rd down and 2. Randy Bullock has a 47-yard field goal, his career high, and this is first year in the NFL. Got a whistle. Timeout.
Timeout. Houston. This is their first. This is a 30-second timeout.
Texans will have 2, and so will the Seattle Seahawks. Tim Rye, Chris Myers, Jennifer Hale down on the field. We welcome you to our booth here in Houston, where it's been an exciting game. You can see why these 2 teams were in the playoffs last year, won playoff games, and have great expectations this year. How should the Texans play this, Tim?
Well, they've got 2 timeouts left now. They got plenty of time. The whole field's still open. As I said earlier, they don't have to hit it to the sideline. I would think one thing is Seattle's going to put 2 over 1 on Andre Johnson, try to give some help over there, and Schaub's got to get to his tight ends. It's really that simple. They're a huge part of what they do, and they just need a couple more first downs to get Bullock in field goal range. The tight ends have to be dialed up here for the Houston offense.
Richard Sherman back in. He had that touchdown return on the interception, was bruised, but covering one-on-one. On third down, it's caught by Owen Daniels. Somehow, he hauled it in at the 49-yard line.
No, that's the trust. That's what I said. I mean, he's got his tight ends. They're a big part of what they do. That was great coverage. I believe it was KJ Wright in coverage. So if you're thinking field goal, this is where they got to get it for the career long for Randy Bullock for Houston.
There's a flag down. Schaub is going to go down hard at the 40-yard line. Coming from the linebacker, or I should say from the end spot, Cliff Averill. Takes him out of field goal range.
And just a 4-man rush. They're running a game inside where they're bringing in Clint McDonald one way, Tony McDaniel around the other, and Schaub just got laid out by Averill.
Offense, wide receiver covered up the tight end. Penalty is declined. Result of the play, second down.
44 seconds remain. Coming up after the game, the Pepsi Game Break Show, highlights of all the other activity. The Bears, who had been undefeated, getting beat in Detroit. The Chiefs look like they're going to put away the Giants. And here, coming in, one of 7 unbeatens, the Seahawks at a tie on the road. On 2nd and 20, Schaub has time, and open, the rookie, DeAndre Hopkins, his first catch of the game. We welcome those of you who have just tuned in with Tim Ryan, Jennifer Hale, Chris Myers. A timeout on the field, Texans. Pete Carroll's team on a 58-yard interception return by Richard Sherman after trailing 20-3. Fought back to tie it. And the Texans on the move. You see the timeouts remaining.
The Texans were great in the first half with all the yards and 20 points. A lot of yards here in the second half. No points held off the scoreboard. That last throw by Schaub, he had time to let it develop. Seattle ran that same stunt up front with the 4 defensive linemen. The offensive line was able to get it blocked up, and Schaub threw a dime to DeAndre Hopkins, his first reception of the game.
3 injured starters on the offensive line for Seattle. Russell Wilson had to run on 4th down to get him in position. Marshawn Lynch with a touchdown run and a fumble in this game, and Schaub with a couple of touchdowns, but also 2 interceptions. And it might come down to a kicker. And a timeout, Seattle.
This is their second. It's a 30-second timeout.
It's a Fox doubleheader today. One of those unbeaten teams, the Broncos, at home against the Philadelphia Eagles. Some of you will see that. Some will see the Chargers and Cowboys, or the winless Redskins against the Raiders. Matt Schaub, fans on his case despite a 2-1 record, despite going to the playoffs the last 2 years. And Pete Carroll, one of the preseason favorites to go to the Super Bowl. They've been good on the road with Russell Wilson the last few days. 3rd down and 5. Schaub gets rid of it, and it's knocked away. Earl Thomas batted the ball. A Texas guy from Orange, Texas, the 2-time Pro Bowler. Makes it 4th down, and Bobby Wagner put the heat on Schaub.
Pressure all over Schaub, right up the gut. Bobby Wagner coming inside. Schaub took one to the helmet right there, but another ill-advised throw. I mean, he just threw that one up for grabs.
And Tim, instead of a field goal of what would be 62 yards and give position if you miss to the Seahawks, Shane Leckler is going to come out and at least line up like he's going to punt the ball. It's 4th and 5. And he boots it. Golden Tate waving at the 10-yard line. 20 seconds remain here And we're tied at 20. Matt Schaub to his tight end Garrett Graham. And then Schaub again to Arian Foster, and they built a 20-3 advantage before Marshawn Lynch scored his third touchdown of the season. And then moments ago in the fourth quarter, Richard Sherman, 58 yards. The interception, the touchdown return, and we are tied at 20. Seattle with just one timeout, likely to run it out and go to overtime.
Absolutely.
And they're set up that way. Back at the goal line, just in case. Player is set up, Jermaine Kearse. Another sellout here in Houston. Nearly 72,000 fans, and they're going to get a little extra football today.
I know there's one big wish coming true, and that's overtime for Chris Myers.
Well, I root for that every Sunday.
Come on, baby.
We really do enjoy meeting with the players, talking with the coaches, and that's the excitement, Tim. You just don't know on Sunday what kind of game you're going to get.
You can't figure this league out. Pete Carroll loves the challenge, and this type of challenge for his football team. I mean, they came in dismantled up front with their offensive line. Houston absolutely handed it to him in the first half with J.J. Watt, Antonio Smith, and Whitney Merciless, and Brian Cushing all over that offense. But I said they're down 20-0. They will not stop believing. Part of that's their head coach, Pete Carroll. Another part of it's 8 consecutive regular season wins. This team believes they can do it.
Captains will play one overtime period. If neither team scores, the game will end in a tie. Special rules provided in overtime. Each team will have one opportunity to possess a football at a minimum unless a touchdown is scored. Visiting team, you have the toss. What would you call? Tails. Visiting team calls tails. It is heads. They want the football. Which goal?
We want to keep this.
Houston has won the toss and will receive.
It's been that kind of game between two of the NFL's elite teams. The Texans will get the football in overtime. Overtime, Texans and Seahawks in Houston. You saw the coin toss. Tony Corrente, our referee, a clear explanation of how it works after the 15-minute period. Each team gets 2 timeouts. We still could end up with a tie after one 15-minute period. Texans won the toss and want the ball. Hauschka kicks off, and Keyshawn Martin will down it. Matt Schaub in the offense to the 20. Tim Ryan, Jennifer Hale, Chris Myers, and while you're watching the NFL on Fox.
Matt Schaub again. Now, this situation, you got a full OT period. You got your running game alive with Arian Foster. He's had a nice game. So get right back to the script that Gary Kubiak started the game with, was with a couple of nice runs. And then for Seattle, I mean, they got to get pressure on Matt Schaub like they have here late in this game. If they don't, he will slice them up, and this OT won't last long.
He already has over 300 yards. That broke a string of 11 straight for the Seattle defense, not allowing that. Foster carries. Arian Foster over 100 rushing yards. All reviews do come from the booth here in overtime. And this crowd that was so loud at the beginning, Tim, the momentum shifted. They haven't been able to get back into it. And obviously, if the Seahawks get the football, they'll try and do their part.
Yeah, I don't mind them being quiet here in between plays. It's when their defense, if they get an opportunity to get back on the field, is when this crowd's got to roar.
Michael Bennett was hurt, and he's out of the game for Seattle. Andre Johnson with a catch up to the 34-yard line. Brian Cushing was hurt with a concussion for Houston. Let's check in with Jennifer Hale.
Well, Chris, more encouraging news for the Seahawks lineman Michael Bennett. His CT scan has come back negative. He will be leaving the hospital momentarily and coming back to the stadium to rejoin his Seahawk team, Chris.
His father was here in the stands watching the game, again from Texas, after a gain of 13. First down. Schaub's on the move. Caught at the 35 by Greg Jones, the fullback. It'll be 2nd and 9 for Houston. Chris Clemens, who has a sack in this game, applying some pressure.
I'll tell you where Clemens has been really good is he had the one sack coming outside, but when he wraps coming back inside, He comes right up the gut on the quarterback. He is a major factor player when he does that.
The overtime win this year for Houston came against the Titans. DeAndre Hopkins dominated that game. Pass to Foster. Slips a tackle. Is out of bounds near the 40. It'll bring him third down. Not only has Foster run it 26 times, he's also caught 6 passes today, including one for a touchdown.
This has been a nice part of their offense today. In an area they were really lacking coming in is they were throwing it to the backs, but the backs were doing nothing. Arian Foster and Ben Tate after the catch. Arian Foster has routinely on those receptions made the first guy miss today.
Pete Carroll on the NFL on Fox pregame show said this game is a good measuring stick for both teams. He said we'll probably look back on this later in the year as a significant point of the season. Extra pressure coming. Schaub with time and incomplete. He floated it for Andre Johnson. It was a low throw, but Browner was there and couldn't hang on.
Well, Andre Johnson reached down on that back shoulder throw and had it, but Brandon Browner with those long arms never quit on the play, and he's just going to reach over the top of Andre Johnson, who has it right there, and then just swat it out.
Golden Tate back to receive the punt of Shane Leckler. Standing inside the 15, he backs up to the 10 and lets it go. And it's through the end zone. Touchback. A 60-yard punt. So from the 20-yard line is where the offense takes over. America's game of the week coming up. It's a doubleheader day on Fox. The undefeated Broncos against those crazy Eagles and Chip Kelly. Cowboys and Chargers from the coast, and the winless Redskins with RG3 against the Raiders.
All right, one thing to remember here in overtime, Houston has already possessed the football. No points, no field goal, no, obviously no touchdown. Seattle, they get a field goal, this game's over. They win it with a field goal.
That makes it a little bit easier for Russell Wilson, who has only thrown for 103 yards today. But he's run for 55 to Marshawn Lynch. And Lynch has a first down before going out of bounds. There's a flag, and we may see a horse collar.
No may about it. This will be a horse collar. As soon as those knees buckle and a defender grabs the back of the collar and it was sharped in there, they're going to call it. And this is just going to add yards onto the end of this play.
Personal foul. Defense number 51 with a horse collar tackle. 15-yard penalty will be added to the end of the run. First down.
All right, that's only the 4th penalty. They had 14 the Texans did last week, equaling a franchise record that had coach Gary Kubiak upset.
And it used to be you got to rip the guy all the way to the ground. No more. Really, as soon as that knee starts to buckle, they're going to call that horse collar.
So this is a 28-yard gain for Seattle. Turbin is in at running back. 2 receivers split out to the left of Russell Wilson. Top of your screen, it's Sidney Rice and Golden Tate. Wilson goes down. Brooks Reed with the sack.
Brooks Reed gets to clean it up, but look who gets it started. J.J. Watt up inside, forces Russell Wilson to try to slip out the side door. Really, really well played by Brooks Reed, keeping him in the pocket and collecting a sack.
A 10-yard loss, Tim. Now 2nd and 20. Incomplete. It'll be 3rd and long. Next score wins. At one time, the Texans had a 20-3 advantage. They did not score in the second half. Richard Sherman's interception returned for a touchdown. Made it a 20 all game, and that's where we are. Russell Wilson short of the first down, getting all the way down to the 46 of Houston. And here comes the punting unit with John Ryan.
Believe it or not, that was a big play by Ed Reed, getting Russell Wilson down in space, or Russell Wilson's going to run for that first down.
The 35-year-old Ed Reed, former Baltimore Raven, got in his first game last week in a loss at Baltimore. Texans using that to fuel their practices this week. John Ryan, Keyshawn Martin at his 10-yard line. A high kick, fair catch, has it inside the 13-yard line. Matt Schaub will lead the offensive unit back on the field. They've already possessed once, so a field goal wins at any kind of score will determine the outcome of this game. We welcome those of you joining us. Tim Ryan, Chris Myers. We have Jennifer Hale down on the field. The Seahawks trying to go to 4-0 for the first time in franchise history. They had to rally to create a tie in this game. Houston has the football for the second time in this game. And if we go back in overtime, Tim, if we go back to Chicago last year in an overtime game, the Seahawks talk about that as a defining moment in their season as they went on to the playoffs and sprung the career of Russell Wilson. Pass is tipped and incomplete.
Yeah, there's no doubt that was a statement win at Chicago last year that galvanized this football team and gave them belief that they could win on the road. And they haven't lost since that game away from their home stadium.
The Bears lost earlier, so their first defeat of the year as they fell by 8 to the Lions in Detroit. We welcome a few more of you watching from around the country of the National Football League, from up in Alaska to South Carolina and across town. The Texans in overtime. Pass is caught, sliding at the 25-yard line. DeAndre Hopkins. And the next score wins in this game. I'm a bit repetitive because new people are tuning in, but it's worth pointing out, Tim, that the Seahawks missing 3 starters on their offensive line. Michael Bennett went out with an injury on defense. Brian Cushing left with an injury for the Texans. And Gary Kubiak had a 20-3 advantage here at home before Russell Wilson rallied his team for a touchdown and then a defensive score by Richard Sherman. Arian Foster spins out of a tackle. Gets back to the 24-yard line. Over 100 yards for Arian Foster.
He's been terrific in the run game and as a receiver in the passing game as well. He's had a nice afternoon. People forget how good this guy is, especially when he's out in open space. Arian Foster, look at that vision up inside. Just such a jump cutter, just a slasher. And he makes people miss. Has some wicked moves to buy himself some open space. This is his best game this year by a nice margin.
Schaub has thrown for 348 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Andre Johnson at the 30. And for Andre Johnson, he's over 100 yards. That's the 46th 100-yard receiving game in his career. That's 10th all time and the most among active receivers.
I'll tell you what really changed in the second half was Russell Wilson getting out of the pocket, especially in the fourth quarter, and making plays with his legs. And then on the other side, defensively, Seattle's pass rush just with force started to get home on Matt Schaub, which forced him into some mistakes, including that big pick 6 to Richard Sherman. Now 3rd and 4
for Houston. Andre Johnson, lower part of your screen. He's looking that way for Andre Johnson out of bounds. And there's a flag down.
They're going to get Brandon Browner all over him, pass interference.
Pass interference, defense, number 39, automatic, first down.
And it's hard on these big corners now, these back shoulder throws. He's just going to throw it shallow. And Brandon Browner, his whole problem is he never turned to look at the ball. And if you're going to have contact with that receiver, you better have your head locating the ball in terms of your head being flipped around trying to make a play on the ball. He didn't. It's an easy call.
A 19-yard penalty from the 49 of Houston. 9th penalty against the Seahawks in this game. On first down, Shaw ducks and he goes down inside the 40-yard line. Fourth sack of the game for Seattle. Clinton McDonald made it happen.
Yeah, and there he is right here, number 69, right up the gut on Wade Smith. Wade Smith's got to be better than that. I mean, Wade had big issues last week against the Baltimore Ravens. Clinton McDonald was cut, brought back to the Seattle Seahawks, and he's had a nice football game today, right in the middle of that Seahawk defense.
Next score wins. All reviews come from the booth in overtime, and each team with 2 timeouts. From inside their own 40, batted down. It'll be 3rd and 19. Cliff Averill got his arms up.
Yeah, Seattle didn't take the bait. That was a double screen. They had a screen called to the left and to the right. And Averill sees it the whole way and just reads the quarterback and swats the ball out of the air.
So on 3rd and 19, these are the top 2 defenses in the NFL statistically coming in. Remember, the Seahawks had only given up 27 points in 3 games. Schaub is going to run and go down at the 45-yard line. Again, it's Clinton McDonald.
And these are the kind of plays that you lose for a guy like Matt Schaub, who's not the most fleet of foot and a big-time athlete. You can play man coverage on the back end. You're really not worried about the quarterback hurting you with his legs. A lot of quarterbacks in the NFL run for a first down right there.
And the fans here in Houston are giving it to Matt Schaub, and I know they've been on his case despite the 2-1 record this year. Shane Leckler with a high boot. Golden Tate, there's a flag down, and he has it at the 5. Knocked down right away. A 50-yard punt. Four penalties accepted on Houston today, 9 on Seattle. A tough road game for the Seahawks, who play 3 of their next 4 on the road. At Indy, home with Tennessee, then at Arizona, and at St. Louis. Gary Kubiak trying to get to 3-1. Texans play Sunday night at San Francisco.
Oh, their next 4 games are brawls now for Houston. If they're going to get to where they want to be, they're going to certainly earn it when you look at their schedule.
The kicking team went out of bounds on his own, came back into the field. 5-yard penalty will be assessed at the previous spot. Replay 4th down.
It's a rule we've seen enforced quite a bit early this year, Tim.
Yeah, Pleasant goes out on his own, and as the rule reads, you got to make, and not immediate action to get back in the field of play, but in a reasonable amount of time start angling to get back on the field. Boy, he didn't look like he was running parallel to the sideline there. That's somewhat of a questionable call.
Pete Carroll wants the re-kick, so from the 40-yard line they'll snap it, and it should give Golden Tate a little more running room. Seven minutes to go here in overtime. Remember, we can wind up tied if nobody scores. And it'll end that way. He's bringing it from the goal line. Golden Tate. What a return. Spun down at the 30-yard line, and Shane Leckler, the punter, had to run him down. It was a 60-yard boot and a gutsy 32-yard return by Tate.
And Golden Tate, people look at him like he's a finesse player, and he almost kind of runs like it's finesse, and he's tiptoeing and he's jumping around, but he's got so much power and balance, he just runs through arm tackles.
Spotted at the 31-yard line of Seattle. It changed for Seattle when Russell Wilson started running the football. He's run 9 times for 70 yards in this game. He's only thrown for 115. Marshawn Lynch gets outside. Stephen Williams trying to block over there. And the mobility of Russell Wilson late in the game turned this game, and Wade Phillips described him as a Doug Flutie-like player who he once coached.
And Brian Cushing told us that watching Russell Wilson, maybe the best in the league right now, making plays outside of the pocket. And there is no doubt, Chris, as they were down in this game, when they got to the fourth quarter, Russell Wilson started breaking contain, making plays with his legs. It's been the difference in their ability to come back.
On second down, need to get to the 41. Russell's in trouble. Wilson's running. He's going to keep it, get the first down, and go out of bounds. That's what he did on a fourth down play in a drive that got them to within 7. He had to dance around before setting up Marshawn Lynch's touchdown run.
And you got about 3 Houston Texans who have a shot at him. J.J. Watt starts it, lays out, can't trip him up, and then Russell Wilson makes about 2 or 3 guys miss before he picks up the first down.
Russell Wilson has run for 77 yards on 10 carries. First down from the 44 of Seattle. Marshawn Lynch fighting and will lose yardage as J.J. Watt would not let him go.
Oh, he is awesome.
And if you tuned in late, he's been all over the field.
Hard to run at him because he's going to hit your running back right in the mouth in the backfield. Hard to run away from him because typically any of those inside runs away from him, he's just going to slam down the line of scrimmage and chase your back down from behind.
Dropped Lynch for a 2-yard loss. Second down. Remember, the next score wins, any kind of score. 5 minutes remain, each team with 2 timeouts. Here comes pressure, picked up. Wilson's throw to Baldwin. It'll be third down as he's knocked backwards.
They're going to get a penalty here on Jonathan Kareem Jackson.
So far, no flag. Yeah, there is a flag
down there for the body slam.
48-yard line.
Oh,
you can't lift a player up.
Yeah, it sounded like the whistle may had already blown by the time Kareem Jackson got him and body slammed him to the ground. And you saw Gary Kubiak.
At the conclusion of the play, personal foul, unnecessary roughness, number 25, for picking a player up and dumping him into the ground. 15-yard penalty will be added to the end of the play. First down.
And that's absolutely the right call. So Baldwin's on the ground. Now, you could turn and throw him with his feet on the ground, but once you put your hips into it, lift and suplex, they're going to call that every time with the body slam.
So you tack on 15. It would not have been a first down. Kubiak shaking his head. It turns into a 22-yard gain. Look, they're all the way up at the 36-yard line of Houston. First down for the Seahawks.
A critical penalty.
Marshawn Lynch carries and fights to get inside the 33-yard line. If you're wondering, Stephen Hauschka, who has been 5 for 5 this year, his career-long 54 yards, and it came against Houston, at Houston in 2008. Right now from the 33-yard line with under 4.5 to play. On second down, Lynch gets inside the 30, down to the 28, still fighting. Near the first down marker as the clock runs. And so does Lynch.
Yeah, they're just going to take the air out of the ball and get it lined up right for Hauschka, it looks like.
Marshawn Lynch over 90 yards today.
He is a freight train. Look at his legs just continuing to pump. Houston players everywhere. You're not bringing him down. There's about 6 defenders, and then finally they get him to the ground. And then look at him get up and throw that flex up, say, that's right.
All right, right now it's a 45-yard field goal attempt if they get nothing on 3rd and 1. Timeout, Seattle. 3:28 remaining. Seahawks will have one more timeout in overtime. Stephen Hauschka, as we mentioned, 5 for 5 so far this year, and he's been good from Over 50. Actually, you tack on a couple more from this game where he has been good today. So he's 7 for 7 in the field goal department. How about a measuring stick for these two teams talked about as Super Bowl contenders even at the quarter pole of the season?
Well, I think right now, and we'll see how this game turns out, but I think Seattle's closer in the NFC than Houston is in the AFC because Denver, I think, is just so much better than everybody else in the AFC. But look, I give Houston a lot of credit the way they've come out here in this game today. And I know the second half hasn't been good, but these guys are relentless in terms of their effort and getting after it. And that was an ugly, ugly performance at Baltimore last week. They've equated themselves pretty well here in this matchup.
Texans hoping for a big defensive play on 3rd and 1. Wilson throws incomplete. He was trying to get it to Golden Tate, and it's 4th down. Jonathan Joseph was right there with him. And here comes Stephen Hauschka, who has made from 39 and 48 today. He was 5 of 5 coming in. And again, his career long of 54 came in Houston back in 2008 as a member of the Seahawks.
And if they can push this one through, I mean, what a statement to fuel their belief in how good they can be, this Seattle football team.
45 yards. We might get one of those timeout calls here. Trying to go to 4-0 for the first time in Seahawk franchise history. The kick. Seahawks win in overtime. Seattle down 20-3, rallies to tie, force overtime, and win to stay undefeated. For Tim Ryan, our entire crew, I'm Chris Myers. The NFL on Fox continues in a moment.